59 and I don't know how many seconds.
She's poised.
Yeah, I know.
I am, I'm waiting for this darn thing to go
Spend
click.
the night.
There we go.
Spend the night.
Good evening, everybody. Please join us with the regular meeting November 15th at 6 o'clock, and if you would turn and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, we'll start at the end.
Jerry Lincoln.
Scott McVeigh.
Beverly Fickus,
Logan Johnston.
and I'll let the staff introduce
Paul
them.
Kelly, General Manager, and,
Kayla Fox, Administrative Assistant.
So we are now under open time and public comments. Are there any comments from the floor on any topic that is not on the agenda tonight? Okay, thank you. With that, I did want to add that we found out after the packet was printed up for the agenda that we have a possible change of date for the board meeting. So I would like to put that up for discussion and action item, but we have to have a motion to add it to the agenda this evening.
I'll make a motion.
I will second that.
so the motion is that you are adding an item to the regular calendar for the December meeting time and date.
Correct. Okay, so a motion by
Go ahead.
Director Lincoln and a second by Director McVeigh to have a discussion action on possible change of date for the December meeting. Okay, we'll just make that under perhaps 6A1 or,
I'd like to have a vote.
oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, we want to change it just to 1 week earlier.
So we're not even talking about it right now, we were just adding it to the agenda for now.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Director Lincoln and a second by Director McVeigh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
All right. So that'll be item 6AA or whatever.
6A1 or something, yeah. Okay, we are now to the consent agenda.
All right, so, Madam Chair, you have, your regular meeting from October 18th. There is, some notes in there for the Finance Committee meeting that was on the 17th. List of bills paid, obviously we'll take any questions, but there weren't any items flagged, from the bills paid to be included in your packet. And really, the only thing I wanted to point out was at the last meeting, when we did the budget adjustments, we had a conversation about how to show grant monies, expenses, etc. So you'll notice on page 4 of the profit and loss or activity report, there's now a new account list in the 8,000s. So that's our attempt to start trying to do that. Also, just a note, a little bit of a budget busting item on page 3. The Aqua JPIA vehicle insurance, last year it was like $49,000, this year it's $63,000.
Ouch.
So we had budgeted for last year's amount, so we'll have to deal with that at our budget update next time in January. You'll also notice that in your bills paid. Sometimes it's confusing, but at the bottom of the page 1 has Aqua annual dues and Aqua JPIA insurance. So it's sometimes confusing, but the Association of California Water Agencies is Aqua. They base your dues on your, I think it's your annual revenue of some sort.
Okay.
So that's what our $16,000 worth of dues to be a member. So you have to be a member of the Association of California Water Agencies to have access to the Aqua/JPIA. JPIA stands for Joint Powers Insurance Agency. They provide us our workers' comp, our liability, and auto, and et cetera. So that's why it's broken out in those two, because they're two different organizations.
So this includes our, auto insurance?
Yeah.
That's not in
And then the only other 2 or 3 maybe items I would mention, just because I think it's a pretty big deal, middle of that first page, the bills page, is USDR WINAC. Finally see a number other than 50,000, 49,394.38. That's our last payment to the WINAC. So we are looking for in the next few weeks to have a call with. Well, I was going to give that update later, but we'll let you know. And then the other thing too of note, you know that we've heard sort of the irritating USA, which is the Underground Service Alert of Northern California. We had a $2,600 bill. We then had another bill that came in at $7,700. So it turns out the previous bill was for a different time period. This one, we're obligated to pay it, but it means we've paid about $10,000 for all of the locate processing. So that is both Bella Vista and now I found out Cottonwood's dealing with it as well. So we're trying to set up some sort of a meeting with this organization to convince them that maybe they're handling it incorrectly, but I don't think they are. It's just a matter of how they're billing us. But you have a certain number of calls that are part of your membership. Anything over that, they charge you. So that last invoice covered over 8,000 locate calls. So a little update on that is that I did have finally was able to get a hold of the chief underground coordinator for PG&E today. We had a nice conversation related to him, the challenges that this is causing us. And he said, well, you know, it's funny, just in the last month I've heard from multiple districts that are having this issue. So he's going to come up and meet with myself and a couple of other districts to talk about ways in which they can alleviate this particular issue. Again, just, I know I shared this before, one of the challenges is when you get a locate call, you have 72 hours to do the locate. Obviously, if one of our customers is, building a fence and they do a locate, no big deal. We average maybe a couple hundred of those a year up until the last 2 years. But when they're doing undergrounding, they're basically designing it on the fly. So they're calling for locates, they go out, they then design where they're going to put the power or the fiber. Then by the time they mobilize, the locate has expired. They have like a 30-day time frame. So they call it again. By the time they start at the southern end of Happy Valley Road to get up to the Palm, they've had to call multiple times. So that's just the basics of it. But that was in this bill, and I figured somebody was going to ask, so I just was give you the answer now.
It was on my list. Is there not some way of, in the bid process, PG putting that in there into the contract? That seems like that would be the most reasonable approach.
Well, not
That the
just PG&E, but
contractor
any
then deals
contract,
with
yeah.
it through.
Any
Yeah,
contractor, yeah.
Well, those are some of the options that we'll have to talk to PG&E about. One of the challenges being a district is that, they're in county right of way, they're not in our right of way, so, they're coordinating allegedly with the county not necessarily always coordinating with us. They, in some counties, have passed local ordinances that require all utilities to work together on undergrounding. That's not here. So you'll notice on Happy Valley Road that you've got power underground, but you do not have other utilities. So you've got small poles along there, which is really still it's not necessarily a fire hazard, but it's an emergency response hazard. So that's another one, that's one of the options I suggested to the PG&E rep today. Hey, if you know you're coming into our district, you should put it in your contract that they have to coordinate with us the locates, and then once the locates are done, then they last longer, because a water line's not moving in 30 days, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
so those are some of the things.
Can our supervisor, Chris,
Kelsey.
Kelstrom, help us with that as far as looking forward to see if we get the county to help us deal with it? I mean, that was
Well,
a
even
$9,000
maybe
expense.
countywide ordinance or something requiring to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the ultimate solution, but talking to Bella Vista and Cottonwood, both of them, you know, we're trying to develop what, we don't wanna go to our county supervisors with, here's our problem. We wanna go to them with, here's a problem, and here's some solutions that you guys can help us with, and we don't have that list yet, but potentially they could help.
Well, that would be 3 supervisors right there, that would be the majority.
The other two are not running for reelection.
Okay, Director Lincoln, any issues on minutes, payroll, activity reports? Scott?
Yeah, page 2, check number 31481, Santa Fe Springs. I was not going over invoices this time being out of town, and so I was curious as to what that was about. It's $4,778.
Can you restate that, or not finding?
It's page,
31481 check is the check number on page 2. 31481.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Santa Fe Water Systems
Yeah.
Company.
I didn't remember either, and I've got
It
it
wasn't out of
highlighted.
line, we looked at it.
It's not a normal one is all I'm asking.
I know, and I'm trying to remember what it was. I think you were there the last time we went over.
Not for the Santa Fe, I would have remembered it. And then, check 31484, it's only 1771, but it seemed to be a little different too.
What number?
31484, statewide traffic safety and signs.
That was for the purchase of all the materials and signs for our flushing program.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I did have the underground alert on there, but we've already talked about that. I will be talking with Supervisor Kelstrom on Saturday about the underground and a few things. The
Good.
road
Thank you.
conditions.
Thank you. Well, that's right, I would say that is one of the other issues to just highlight. You know, not only you got this undergrounding thing, but, you know, your roads are falling apart, and they're falling apart even faster because of the
Run
underground.
down to Linden, it's not safe to drive. My son rides a motorcycle, he can't ride down there.
And it's kind of funny, because if you ride down Gas Point is, they've got it all taken care of, and it's fairly smooth now. But Olinda is terrible.
They fixed it fairly quickly after they did the underground.
Yeah.
Yeah. This time they haven't. Okay, that was it I had on the checks. Payroll, I think I was around to approve. And then the activity report, everything looks pretty good. Obviously, the negative 103,000. But when we add in the grant money, and I really do appreciate the staff getting that put in there so that we can track this a little better. You figure out what is actual grant spending, and we came out positive about 27,000. So we're in good shape there. It just doesn't, look like it. So if somebody from the community came and said, well, you lost 103,000, actually we didn't, because that money will be coming back. Is there any way of indicating, I don't know if you want to do it quarterly or how you want to do it, but when the money's come back in for tracking purposes?
Well, we'll probably.
So that we see it in the
but
report.
We do have a revenue, line item that was, I think, in last month's, probably, it's best to look at it quarterly, so when we have a
Yeah,
chance to
that's
look
what I
at it,
feel.
you'll see it.
You know, and then indicating when all invoices or requests for reimbursement have been completed and the project's closed, we can look at those things. All right.
That's it?
I'm okay with the
Okay.
activity report.
Director Reaver,
I'm good with it.
Director Johnston,
Yeah, I just have one quick question. So, for the most part, on our transaction detail accounts, you guys are listing memos out. I just was wondering, what is computer logistics for? Because you have the first check that we cut for them is, about $6,000. And then if you, that would be 31,432, and if you turn to the second page, 31,468 is a much lesser amount, it's around 7734, so.
Right.
$540,
Good, great question. So,
$540.
the second,
I think your line is off.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't track that well, then. Apologies.
That's
no
okay.
worries, there's no lines all the way across.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Alright, so you'll see on a fairly regular monthly basis, $540. So those are, Computer Logistics is our IT company. They have provided all the support, but they also, are providing, so all of our Microsoft 365 subscriptions for our emails and, some of our cybersecurity, and also they do, remote backups, is all under that $540. I can give you more of a detailed list.
No, I don't, I just.
But that's what that one is. The other one, is, most likely, so it's 5,892, that's for the, couple of products. And all of that, I believe all that one is gonna get reimbursed from the grant. So that's for the new, SCADA machine related to our south booster station, and also the purchase of a firewall that was installed in the south booster station.
So should that then be at the bottom of that, under the grant section for reimbursement? Which would then have pushed us to about 33,000 instead of 27. If that is reimbursable.
We'll have to check about where that's supposed to be located, but,
Under the,
it's-
on the profit loss statement.
but you don't see the $34,556.91 under 80022 materials and equipment?
Mm-hmm.
That computer purchase is somewhere in that.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you. Okay, so for me, I just want to alert you guys that on the minutes, I already talked to Kayla about some amendments. So on one of the, on page 2 of the minutes, where we had, what was it?
The journal
We-
or the finance?
Bids voting.
Pardon?
The, board meeting or the finance committee?
Board meeting.
Board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when we approved the minutes, we had 2 people abstain, so the record shouldn't be 5-0, it should be actually 3-0-2, so 3
Right.
approved, okay? And then the other thing was on the closed session, there was no mention of it being that no action was taken, so we got that changed. So a couple of questions that I had in regards to the transaction detail was, I saw that Horton, McNulty, and Saturn, we paid them on the audit. So where are we with that? I mean, are we, if we've paid them money, does that mean we're almost done?
Their current schedule is, hopefully finishing this one in, December.
All right, so then on the Aqua JPIA insurance you had down there, we paid $63,000, but on the next page, we also paid them another $9,600. So I was just curious as to what that one was.
I don't remember exactly what the 9,000 was, probably, but liability and or workers' comp.
Okay, so they kind of separate that part, okay. And then I had, I just wanted to know, I saw the Harvest Printing Company customer billing, and I wanna know how is it working? That's, okay.
You're not having to use the machine, right?
That's-
Yeah,
Are we saving any money, Kayla, or is it just we're about the same?
It's saving a little bit.
yeah, but by my calculation, we're saving probably between, 10 and 12 cents per piece right now. But that's really only because, as I think I reported to the board, we were not able to get out from under the folding machine lease
Yes.
unless they wanted like twice as much as what we owed. So we're just playing out that lease until March, and then if they don't come pick it up on the day after we're done with it, we're all gonna hold the bonfire. But, it is, so far super successful.
Good, okay.
I think part of that is freeing up staff time too. Because I know when I volunteered here, it was horrendous to try to run that machine.
So the only other thing I've had is under the profit and loss for October, I see that we paid legal $4.28. I was just,
What's your opinion, was
I was just curious as how we could have a $4.28 legal fee, so.
Well, that's what we got. Yes, we have a volunteer.
Can I answer that so I don't have to tell you later? So, we start off with a credit with the, legal for the year for, along with all of the other districts, and you'll see them listed on the,
It's the WINAC litigation, there's,
Oh,
all the
okay.
districts.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Okay.
one.
And so we went through all of that, the retainer for the year, and what was left over for this last bill was the $4.28. So the prior bills you would have seen would have been zero, because we were running through that retainer.
Okay,
And then this one had that $4.28, and you'll see on that bill, if I pull it, each district has $4.28.
oh, got it, okay,
I do
okay. I just
have,
didn't.
when you're done, I do have one more.
Okay, so I am done.
Oh, okay. Just to update us on the safety equipment training, 4305, where are we, in that? We keep seeing this popping up on a regular basis. Are we replacing things already? I'm trying to get an understanding of where we are on this. Safety equipment in general, 875, personal safety equipment, another 632. We've spent a fair amount of money this year.
He's been buying tools.
Well, if that's
We
true-
have been buying, some tools, we also have been replacing, muck boots that have, leaking, after 6 months, and, so.
Seems
Just
chest waders might be more appropriate.
yeah.
Those broke too.
Okay. Not having seen invoices, I just wanted to get
Yeah, was
clarification
there,
of what's going on. Okay.
Some of the jackets too.
Okay, so I need a motion on the consent agenda. What, was there any comments from the floor in
Yes.
regards to the consent agenda? Hearing none. Okay, back to the board.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
And with the minutes being amended as.
And with the amended minutes, yes.
So I have a motion by Director McVeigh to accept the consent agenda with the minor corrections on the minutes, with a second by Director Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. I think what I'll do is just quickly do 6A, and then we'll go 6A1, which will be the date and time for the next meeting. This is our monthly Bureau account reconciliation. Just to remind you, we received a year ago a whole bunch of stuff from Bureau Finance related to trying to reconcile previous years. We've asked them for clarifications, and you might recall that they sent invoices that didn't add up to the letter, so that's still in conversation. I've also used this to update you on other Bureau activities, like the payment of our last WINAC payment. In talking to Jake Behrens, we expect to see some sort of letter that acknowledges that we've satisfied that. But that's just the obligation to the Bureau. Remember, we still have the obligation to our operating fund from the fee, the 1081 fee for the WINAC.
188, right?
Yeah, so, but I do want to use this to also point out another little challenge I think you have seen because of the check signers have had copies of the Bureau recap. And so for June, July, and August in particular, we used
LAFCO board. I'm trying to remember.
Well, Patricia did serve on the fire district, I believe.
Right, she's on the fire district already,
Okay.
so, I'm just trying to see, so we have the special districts are, is what we're doing in, Fred is Ronnie Lund is a special district member, but I don't know where she's from, so, what's the pleasure of the board? I don't, you know, what's your thoughts?
Either Patricia or Fred. Having read through all of them, they both look, you know, well qualified. Both seem to have good interest in doing it.
What's your thoughts, Logan?
I would agree, it's either Patricia or Fred for me. I don't know Patricia seems very accomplished, has done a lot, has sat on a lot of boards, so I'd say on paper she looks the best. But I do want to know what the opinion of the directors is, in supporting, Mr. Reines, Fred, as Irwin's appointee at the time of his resignation. Do we put more stock in that than that?
Well, he served, oh, no,
No, he was an
No.
alternate, right?
but he served as the alternate for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitate with Patricia only because, she's got so much experience, so should a LAFCO person be a little bit new or not new, you know?
But the experience, won't that count for something?
Yes,
You know, our sphere of influence in one area of the district is, up, and you know, if that comes to a LAFCO vote, I would like someone who has some experience with that, for, you know, better understanding.
thoughts, Director Lincoln?
Either one of those is fine. I lean more toward Fred than Patricia, but.
Director Beaver, your thoughts?
Is this a paid position?
I don't believe it
I don't think so.
So
EHSA
Yeah,
isn't,
yeah, volunteer.
yeah.
I tend to go with Fred too over Patricia.
So nobody else jumps out at you?
No,
Okay.
I wish
I mean, everybody
I
gets
would
to.
like to see new blood in there,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, but from these applications, we really can't see.
No, I found some of them difficult to read.
And all the districts, all the special districts are gonna get a vote, and there's like 40 of us, so,
Yeah,
depending on who replies to the vote. Okay, well then I need a motion from somebody.
I
well,
make a
that depends.
motion that we accept Fred Reines as our, vote
Nominee,
nominee for the position of special district member for LAFCO.
I'll second it.
all those in favor, say aye.
I
Well, if you're not
No,
happy, say something.
I am, I feel good about this. I was conflicted, but I feel good.
And I didn't ask, was there any comments from the floor in regards to that? Yes,
I was
Joanne?
wondering what the ratio of male to female is on the LAFCO board,
There's one female currently.
and how many
Oh, no,
males?
that's not true. One,
At least two.
there's two females and there's one, two, three men. So there's six members.
So the ratio
seven.
isn't too off then?
No,
Okay.
that's the alternate. I may have misspoke. This is hard to read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 positions and 2 are female currently.
Yeah, I believe this.
I believe there's 3.
Oh, okay, Pam, Ronnie, and who else?
Mary Rickard.
No, she's the alternate.
Oh, here she is.
Okay, so I have the motion on the floor, all those in favor, we said aye, right?
We said aye.
Okay, you didn't? No, okay. Did
I
you
don't
want?
have, no, I would prefer Patricia,
Okay,
so I'm just gonna.
So you're gonna record a no vote, is that?
yeah, which is fine, yeah, that's
Absolutely.
fine. Okay, so
Alright.
motion carried 4-1. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the alternate seat. We're all in agreement. Do we have to have a vote on that? There's only one person. Rosemary Smith. Anybody have a problem with, agreeing with that? Yeah.
Let's have a motion and a second and a vote, please.
Okay. Any comments from the floor in regards to this before we do that? Okay, thank you. Need a motion to accept Rosemary Smith as our, nomination for alternate on the special district member?
I move that we accept Rosemary Smith as the alternate for the LAFCO board.
I second that.
I have a motion by Director Beaver to accept Rosemary Smith as our nomination, and a second, by Director McVeigh, to nominate her for the Shasta LAFCO, board. All those, did I do that already? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried on that one.
All right, thank you. We will fill out the ballots and sign them as clerk of the board, and we will submit those by the deadline. All right, next up is drought supplemental water program. This item was discussed at a little ag committee forum. I'm gonna call it a little forum since there was not well, there wasn't enough members of the committee to actually have a committee meeting. But Director McVeigh had brought this to the district in the past. So we did some updates and modifications and are bringing this to the board. There's some items on here for your consideration. Hopefully you've had a chance to read through this, but primarily, supplemental water programs. One of our neighboring districts, Bella Vista, does it fairly successfully. They'll go out when there's a potential for a drought, and they'll solicit those, especially mostly a lot of them agricultural interests or other businesses, and they'll commit to a certain amount. So, for example, this year, they had commitments for somewhere around 500 acre feet. So that gave Bella Vista confidence when they were in the same situation we were with McConnell. They actually purchased 800 acre feet of McConnell water. They already had 500 of it committed to be paid for by their customers. So that's one way it's used. As you recall, when we had some of our initial drought activities around here, I mean, we had people cutting down to 29 HCF, and then it was 45, and then it was some amount under 2019 usage. So this would allow certain folks to be able to purchase or commit to purchasing water. So if we needed to purchase water from outside sources, they would then have that on top of their drought allocation, depending on how that works. So you'll see this documentation, there's just sort of a call for that. I think it's best to have this conversation while we're not in a drought. So it's really an opportunity for the board to provide some direction on a couple of items. One, and I'll let Director McVeigh go through some of the other items that he's got, but should there be a minimum reservation amount, a purchase amount? Should it be, 1 unit or 10 units or an acre foot or half an acre foot? Should it be in units or acre feet? Should be the purchase amount or the commitment amount? When would the solicitation application start? Should we just start it on the calendar, or should we wait till there's an initial bureau allocation letter? And then how the district is going to account for deposits and refunds and all those other kind of things. So those are some of our administrative challenges. And really, we have not come up with kind of what an administrative cost of this would be. It's hard to know. I will say that with our current customer billing software, I don't have a lot of joy in implementing this program, but with our future CUSI program, I think we will have ways in which we can track this, both deposits, reimbursements, and all the rest of that stuff, as well as when they purchase it and we're able to purchase supplemental water, allocating it correctly, etc. So with that, I really give it to Director McVeigh.
Most of you know that I've worked on this for a while, and that it was done in conjunction with the prior board chair. And it was important to that prior chair of the board that we have it in HCS, which I'm not sure we necessarily need to. I instituted this program, looked into how many districts were doing and whatnot, in an attempt to help as many customers within the district as we could. So when do you think the software will be online to minimize the impact to staff and potential administrative costs to be added to this?
CUSI up and running in February, March next year.
Oh, then it shouldn't be a problem because Shasta's at 54.4 feet down, so right in line with what they were talking about, so we should probably have
It's
full water here.
It's unlikely we will need this program for the coming water year.
Right, so, but that's why it's a good time to do this. If you've read through the basic program, you'll see we've got most of the bases covered as far as how things should be run. Important to me was that you have to be a customer. You have to be a customer in good standing. In other words, no delinquencies and whatnot. And by law, you cannot sell it to anybody in the district or outside of the district. It's not basically the individual customers to sell, but to use on their own property. I think one of our determining factors is how small an amount do we go? Do we do a half acre foot as a minimum? Do we do a full acre foot? We know that there will be people who will be buying it. There are plenty of customers who need this program when they were cut down. I think by doing it this way, we can almost eliminate penalties and having to deal with that issue, because we'll have made the water available to the customers. So now it's up to the board, I think, to determine what a minimum purchase should be. I lean towards, if it's easy enough to do for staff, a half acre foot, which would be about 217 units.
Yeah, it's in italics on the second page at the top. I think originally there was just 100 units, which is basically a quarter.
Yeah.
A quarter.
Less than
So we could convert the half acre foot into units, or we could just make it a half acre, but really it's up to the board.
Well, exactly, and I want to get some feel for where the board is coming from, what their thoughts are, and from the public. But that's up to our chair here to run this.
Right, so Caitlin, if you could pause and just let the board discuss, and then I'll make sure that I get to you. Thoughts, Director Lincoln? Do you have any questions on any of this? Because I wrote a lot of questions down too, as far as that. But the topic right now is just on units or acre feet or HCF.
I was wondering, they bill for 100 cubic foot.
Units, yeah.
And, then I find it very confusing, because we sit here and talk, acre feet, and I think it would be easier for the person buying it on their bill if they're buying it by the unit, so, yeah.
Well, maybe I can explain a little more then. Under this program, a customer would purchase in advance, we'll say for example, 1 acre foot, because over the course of June, July, August, September, they're gonna use up those units, okay? They pay for the water, but on the monthly bill, the cost of treatment and distribution would be still owed.
Mhm.
So that would be how they would be paying for it by the unit to cover those costs. So it would be pay for the water because we then collect the money, turn around and we pay McConnell or whoever we bought it from. And it's paid for it now. The customer simply has to pay for the treatment distribution costs
Well,
based on their units.
I think it would, to me, would be determined on how much you're gonna charge per unit. I mean,
We don't know because if you remember in past, we bought water from the city of Reading at about $481 an acre foot. McConnell's at $250. I would love to be able to work a deal with Agro Ono and cut that, but I need to hear from Don Bader whether that's even possible. I'm hearing some conflicting information as to whether they're mandated to release a certain amount of water into the Cottonwood Creek that flows into the river in south. I don't know that for sure though, so that's something I want to investigate. But we can't determine how much water will cost right now because we don't know what source we're buying from.
The problem I have is that when we buy this water, we're buying it in acre feet. And so we have to buy full acre foot. So if you've got 10 customers out there and they only want just a little bit, that makes it difficult. So
Correct.
So why not have them buy it in full acre feet? And if they really want the water, then they need the water, then they do it. That's just my thought process.
I understand that. My only concern was trying to provide that little extra water to anybody in the district who felt they needed it. The residential customer who struggled with 40 HCF. When we got to that point during that, what was it, 21? The summer of 21, it was horrendous. So, you know, and I'm willing to go along with whatever the board determines, but I was trying to come up with an amount that someone who wants to keep their fruit trees, their redwood trees, or whatever alive through the summer.
well, I would say that if that is the goal of it, we'd have to go down to a half an acre foot. And enough people could gather and we can move them together for that. You know?
Well, it would be an easy division, since it's 435.6, the division would be done that way.
Yeah.
And then rounded to the nearest HCF. But it's, you know, I'm only 1 of 5, so.
I think that half acre foot in increments makes the most sense. You can pretty easily ramp that up for an actual ag producer, and it's an amount of water that somebody with a
You're looking at an additional
vegetable garden
50
out back is
HCF
actually
to
gonna
get
get
4
thrown
months.
back to that.
You know, so.
So just on this topic alone, Caitlin, you had a comment?
So I was gonna say half acre foot would probably be the easier way, because my mom and I would probably just do half acre over a course of a year. So that's not unfeasible, and then if people who have larger farms and they need to go bigger, they can go bigger at half acre increments from there. In regards to how to set up like deposit, I would think like sometime November, December, putting a deposit down, saying I'm wanting X, because we kind of know how the seasons go and what we're already rolling into a drought generally. So kind of like November, December, that's when you put your deposit down, and hopefully with the new system, it won't be hard to either hold that money or refund it, or have that applied to their future bill payments, so that way that money isn't having to go back and having to cut a check, because the district doesn't like to cut checks. It just sits in their account and it's
It's a credit.
It's a credit. And hopefully with the new system, it's not stupid where there's a credit and you don't get your bill. It will actually print a bill showing that it's automatically coming out of the credit for the new system. I would think that it would have to be paid in full, at least by the end of January, because this is a new water year at the end of this March 1st, right?
Except we won't know if we have acquired that by the end of January. Typically, if we buy McConnell water, we're looking at right around the 1st of March, in that range. So the deposit says, I intend to pay for it if you can acquire it for me. And then after we have acquired the water, and we may not be able to acquire all the water that is requested, and that's written into the language of this. then it would be probably due within 30 days, because McConnell can wait on the payment. And the whole issue I see is getting people to commit to buying this water, and then we have full allocations, and that water that they just purchased is so much more expensive than Bureau water. You know, Bureau at $27, $28 an acre foot versus 250. Now, when you divide the 250, it's like 57.
What rate sheet are you reading?
Oh, it's gone up, okay.
Yeah, 57.
Ah,
So in theory, if they pay for the higher water rate, then we get the full water allocation, when they didn't technically even pay for any water, we're just getting our normal allocation, so then that would just become a credit on their bill, right?
That is one
right,
of the things they gotta decide, but
right.
generally that's
These are
what
the
you would
things we're
do.
gonna work through.
Yeah,
Would that be the easiest on the office staff?
yeah, most likely, but we'd have to figure that out as our new system comes in. I would just say, I think you can wait on your deposit until January, I think, yes, December and January, so. Which, based on the speakers, I think you can wait until at
Yes.
least the end of January.
Okay, so my concerns are, so let's go to page 2 of your, program.
On the program, okay.
Yeah, so if you go to D,
Uh-huh,
it says the district will round the total water volume to the nearest acre foot and distribute the excess cost proportionally to all valid applicants. So what you're saying there is that if you only had 300 units, that the whole acre foot is 435, you're rounding up to purchase a whole acre foot. So if you had only 10 people and they wanted less than an acre foot of water, you would round up and then they would divide it by that. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
not necessarily.
through the chair, I think if you decide to make your minimum purchase quantity on half an acre feet, that second sentence would have to change.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then on number E, to be considered, down the last sentence, to be considered valid, the application must be fully filled out, signed by the account holder, and include a deposit equal to the quantity of water requested at the maximum price the customer is willing to pay. Equal to the quantity of water requested. So if I'm asking for an acre foot of water, the deposit is the full acre cost of water, is it not?
Actually, no, it's not meant to be that way, so we probably need to rewrite that.
Okay.
I think the intent was, I want an acre foot, so the board determines, if you look down the next one, yeah, the board will determine the amount of the deposit annually. So we determine that, and we say the deposit should be $50 per acre foot. Okay, and I want 5 acre feet, so my deposit should be $250.
I think I should pay it all.
I want a half an acre foot. Well, I don't want the customer to pay for the water if we can't get it. Because now it's gonna have to be a check cut back to the customer. Because if I buy 4 acre feet and put out $1,000, I may not want to wait until I use that $1,000 up on my bill.
Okay,
Whereas a $50 deposit, I'm not concerned with.
so if you go down to K, and that's where it says, once the application is submitted and the water purchased by the district, all applicants are obligated to pay the full amount.
And that's when
So
it
that's
kicks
why,
in.
and that's
Yes.
why the E up there didn't make sense, okay?
Understandable. And we can adjust the language.
So then if you go to your third page, which is the application for supplemental water, again, because I was going back to E where it says equal, the remaining balance will be due within 30 days after the price is determined by the board. So just in fixing E,
Well,
that's.
okay,
Okay.
determined or actually acquired,
Yeah,
maybe is the
So-
better term.
okay. And then number 3 on that one, if the district is unable to acquire the entire quantity requested, the supply will be allocated on a prorated basis rounded to the nearest whole acre foot to all eligible applicants. What the heck does that mean if it is HCF or half acre? On a
We
prorated,
adjust in there a little bit to account for that, and simply, if we have requests for 800 acre feet, but the district, to satisfy every customer, needs 1,000 acre feet, and maybe McConnell's only willing to sell us 500 for the supplemental program, we have to then
Divvy it
prorate
up between everybody,
and divvy it out
Okay.
best we can.
all right.
So that needs changing too.
Minor adjustments to some of the wording.
So number 4, once the district secures the water, the applicants are obligated to purchase the water. And I was just going back to where up above, it again, it said you will pay the entire amount. So that number E, which threw me off. So,
Okay,
just, you know, obligated and doing it are two different things. I don't know how you're gonna figure that out. So, okay, that was just my concern.
So, and again, just probably wasn't as clear. I mean, the plan was to get this feedback.
Right,
And we're gonna make all these edits,
okay.
come back, because then on page,
this
the
is,
first page, it does say that, you know, we plan to, adopt this by ordinance.
Right,
yeah, when it's ready.
yeah,
We work on it now, get it ready when we don't need it, so that it's ready to run. The only thing then would be, after we work out all the little details, would be getting this information out to the customers. There are a lot of ag customers, 252, a lot of residential customers who don't have ag designation or lost it when properties were sold during a drought or something, and the board or the district did not extend the ag designation to the customers. So there are probably 500 at least, maybe 700 customers who would make themselves available of this. So it would be important to get this information out, educate, and possibly even office staffs to where they can explain it. Once we finalize, come on down to the office, here's an explanation of how it works.
So Chair, I think I've got a lot of notes here. I know that Director McVeigh has a lot of notes, so I think we should take this direction, make modifications, and bring it back to the board for their consideration. I also made note that there probably needs to be some sort of communication plan on how this gets out, distributed, and all that stuff.
all right. Any questions, concerns from the community?
I have a question.
Yes,
In
Joanne.
here, they're asking that we put down the maximum price that we're willing to pay.
You're,
Yeah, and that may, understand, it was left in there by prior board chair Cedric. He and I worked on it for a number of months, but because the water could cost different, McConnell, 250 an acre foot currently, some of the water we bought from other entities ran almost 500 an acre foot. A customer may not be willing to pay that much. So they then would say, no, I can't afford that much.
So we'll need the information before we fill this out as far as what it's going to cost us, so that we can put in an intelligent amount there, rather
Right.
than just trying to guess.
And part of this would be letting people know, this is what we normally pay when we go out and acquire through McConnell or whatever entities, you know, and then you as a customer decide, yes, I'm willing to pay that much, or no, I'm not.
so that's based on them putting down a deposit and not the full amount. So,
Correct.
yeah.
So can we just write in there whatever it costs if we
Yeah,
want?
well, are you willing to pay $500 an acre foot?
Probably.
You
Okay.
know, and a lot
You know.
of, people will,
Yeah.
so. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, bring it back to the board, so we all good to bring it back perhaps in December then?
Oh, absolutely.
If, well, you know what, that's only 3 weeks away, so I don't know if you're,
That's fine.
okay.
That's
If
fine.
not, we'll go with January if we can.
We'll do the best we can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
And even, what I'm thinking is, even if it's not ready for approval, we might bring what we have, and then take more feedback and
okay.
finish it from there.
do we want to discuss, to make it a bit easier now, what a deposit would look like? Just a fixed deposit or per acre foot, you know, if you buy 5, you've got, as an example, $50 an acre foot is your deposit. And when you apply, if you buy 2 acre feet, the deposit should be 100.
Makes sense to me that that's how we run it. You wouldn't want to set it
half acre
Or low
foot,
threshold for some houses, they
25.
want 6 acre feet of water or whatever.
Okay,
I would say half down, whatever you're getting, half of what it is, so if you're willing to pay $2.50 an acre foot, and you're getting 10 of those, you put half down up front, because you're willing to put the money out.
We might not know.
Well, right.
50%, you could just say 50%.
Yeah, just 50% of whatever.
and I understand that. My only issue is if we cannot acquire the water, we are burdening the staff to give out these refunds because most customers are not gonna want that $1,000 left as a credit.
To that,
Whereas a $50 is a little more palatable.
I don't like that, because I'm afraid there's gonna be people that are gonna say,
That's what I would be afraid of too.
But they
It's
have,
low.
the application, it will be a signed contract between the district and the customer.
You wanna go to court?
Well, you know, we give them notice and, a shut-off notice. They seemed to have worked, didn't they?
concerns?
Melissa
Yeah.
has one.
Okay.
Yeah, Drew.
is it realistic that we can secure that much supplemental water in a year to, even if we were to not secure enough to meet what the demand is, at least be able to divide the allocation in a way that makes sense for these?
It's sort of unknown at this point,
Right.
because in a severe drought that lasted 3 or 4 years, we would be buying from McConnell, but everybody will be buying from McConnell, and they may limit how much we can buy. We may only get enough just to run the district, along with our wells,
And I think
to keep
people
people.
have changed too, the
Yes.
way they do things. I mean, if you drive around here, some people are starting to water again, but lots of people just let it die and that's the way it is. So I think that, we don't know, it's an unknown and we're trying something for the first time.
The other question I would have is that maybe check with McConnell, is there a minimum? Because if we don't need the water, if we're gonna rely on something else, maybe McConnell has a minimum, you've gotta buy at least 50 acre feet of water. And that would.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, okay,
So, Madam Chair,
yes,
for the record, could we please have those that spoke from the public state their name so we can record it
okay,
for the item?
so you want me to tell you who they are? Joanne Bloomquist is right here, Kayla, and then Caitlin Patrick.
So remember, please raise their hand.
Oh, you want
State their
them.
name.
Yes, you could stand, and Caitlin did stand, but she didn't introduce herself.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe Melissa had a concern.
Yes, Melissa Tank, bookkeeper. Just as the person that would be cutting those checks for the refunds, I would actually say that it would be better to do it that way and maybe put wording in there that we have a time frame to get the refunds back to them rather than not collecting the money and being SOL.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okey-doke, any further questions on that or concerns, and we'll table it till either December or January, okay? We are on to 6D, General Manager Employment Agreement Amendments, discussion and action, Amendment 1. Before you start, General Manager Kelly, I wanted to thank all the employees for showing up tonight. I'm glad to see all your faces, and also just to commend you for all of the hard work the last few days with all of these breaks and just spending an enormous amount of time away from family. So, appreciate it.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to tell you is that we're sorry to have you sit here and listen to all this, but one of the things that we got dinged on, by people when we started submitting grants is we didn't have written minutes. So this lady and a few more took months and typed out all the minutes. And so we're really good about Kayla getting the minutes done because we can't apply for grants without all that paperwork being done.
Not for you.
And we need more of those.
Oh, okay, you want accolades too?
I was saying that was for you.
Yeah, that was for her. So. Okay, we'll let you take over now.
Well, the board is familiar with the one-year anniversary of the employment agreement. Couple of items that need to be cleaned up or being proposed to be cleaned up. One, in section 5, there was a missing sentence in the signed performance agreement that's on the website and the final copy. Section 9A, there was a fixed CalPERS contribution amount. Traditionally, that is supposed to be based on whatever the CalPERS published rate is for the employee. I prefer you not to change that and to continue to give me a 1% increase in pay. But I do think it would be best to have the employment agreement standardized and best for all. Also, there was a retiree medical paragraph that was not clear or correct, and so that may change in the future, but it needs to be changed here. Also changing the vacation tracking, as well as the admin leave and the sick time, which in the current contract was like 10 days versus currently 13, and then the other is the group life insurance that was based on what was known at the time a year ago. That's being changed. So all of that is in your packet. There's both a clean copy and a red line copy, just so everybody is aware of what's being changed and it's clear.
And my apologies, I was thinking we were on the MOU and we were on you instead.
Yes.
So my apologies for that. Okay, I know we discussed this last month in regards to this proposal. Was there any other amendment change for the GM, as you can read what his concerns were and what the amendment is attached?
I think it corrects the oversights that we negotiated in the first contract.
Anyone else? Okay. All right, anyone from the floor wishing to speak in regards to the general manager's contract? Yes.
Right, Steve Allen, local resident, union rep for your premium file employees. I didn't come tonight to comment on this. I came to talk about the OPEB, which I'm gonna do in a few minutes. But read it, and a couple of things jumped out at me. I thought you guys might want to take a second look at. On top of page 2, where it talks about medical, and my understanding is this is the active employee, but the district pays for medical insurance, not retiring for it. It says the coverage would be substantially the same as other management employees. And just as a matter of clarity, I just wonder, and here I'm doing my public service stuff, but I do read contracts all the time. I wonder what that is, because I'm not aware that you have other management employees. So if you say it's the same as other management employees, how does that work? Maybe you do, and I'm just not aware of it. But it seems to me that it should be more specific. Do you guys see what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah, I understand.
And I just wonder if what you pay for your management folks, including our general manager, ought just not to be the same as what you pay for all the other employees. Normally, the agencies I work with, that's kind of a consistent thing across the workforce.
I think that was an oversight.
So I'm just wondering.
Yep, I think that's what that is.
So I'm thinking it just should refer to being the same as what is provided for the representative employees.
Correct.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, that's your call.
Correct.
If you want to give the general manager a lot more than that, that's your call, but it might need to be more specific, because nobody knows what substantially the same means.
Correct.
Okay, down on that one.
Okay.
Next paragraph down, where it says the district offers lifetime retiree medical coverage, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I was having trouble with that. And, I came in representing your employees at an inflection point where there's a lot of turmoil. Or management, community, committees being formed, a lot of attention. And I think I recall recall that some of that had to deal with how the previous administration, maybe including some of the previous employees, I don't know, I wasn't here, handled their own pay and benefits, including retired medical. And when I see something that says lifetime retiree medical coverage, and I'm not saying anybody's up to no good here with this, certainly not Paul, I respect him, I enjoy working with him. But when I see terms like that on behalf of the employer, I get worried. Because that's almost creating a legally vested benefit separate from what you're doing with the PERS medical plan. That's almost like saying, no matter what happens, we'll pay for your lifetime all your retiree medical costs, because it doesn't say anything different. So I'm just wondering if that might not be spelled out a little bit more. I have a suggestion for it. Where it says further on that meet the district and state requirements, those are a little vague. I think if this is his contract, he has to work this out with you guys, he has to be willing to do this, I guess. I think, just like my previous comment, it ought to refer to what's provided with the represented employees as it exists or may change. And Paul's right, it may change in the future because, we have a process to consider changing. So I don't think the board is trying to create a bigger, permanent, lifetime medical benefit for a at-will employee. Maybe you are. If you are, let's spell it out for the good of the citizens to know that's what you're doing. I don't think you are. I think it ought to just copy what the rank and file folks have. But that's your guys' call.
Okay.
Those are my own thoughts.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Response, Paul?
So what?
Well,
So on that second one about the lifetime retiree medical, I do believe in the employee's contract, it says at 65, they go to Medicare and we pay the supplemental of their coverage. So could this infer, by that point, that let's say you decide you want medical or retiree, that we end up paying $3,000 a month for your retiree medical?
Well, I read that paragraph to be exactly what the speaker was talking about. It says the district offers lifetime retiree medical coverage if the employee meets the requirements set by the district and the state of California. So the district is on page 36 of your MOU and in your vesting ordinance. And then the employee must meet all the district and state requirements for receiving these benefits and will not receive such benefits if these requirements are not met. So again,
That's
the
clear to
way
me.
I read it
Yeah.
is that's in reference to what the district's retiree medical is. Now, on the first one, this was an oversight. I think Director McVeigh and I both talked about that we missed the management employee. It's just supposed to say it's essentially the same as the other employees.
correct.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any other response to say that I don't read it as anything more than what the current district's policy is.
Is there some way to clarify that and prevent somebody in the future from misreading that and thinking they are getting something extra?
They'll have a separate contract.
Yeah,
No, I'm not
have
trying
a
to
different
make it-
agreement with them.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is, first of all, this is the first employment agreement with your general manager this district has had.
Ever.
ever,
Well, I'm not gonna say ever, because I don't know
I do.
that. So, I would expect that, if that was the board's concern, any future employee, then we can have that. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any response other than to say, I don't read it the way that the speaker reads it.
I understand what you're saying.
Now, if you read it the way the speaker reads it, give me a proposal for a change.
The speaker has a real easy suggestion. If you don't mind, on that one section where it says the district officers lifetime, just take the word lifetime out.
Yeah, that's what she just said.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Because your retiree medical is tied to being in the PERS medical program. If you guys change medical programs, arguably you don't have a legal obligation to do anything for retiree medical unless it's in local policy. So you gotta be careful with this stuff. The word lifetime's not in the rank and file contract. I don't think the word lifetime is needed. It's in accordance with the district policies, okay. As they exist and may change, that may be okay. But the word lifetime would concern me if I was in your shoes.
Are you okay with that?
There you go.
So how does
That's-
everybody,
if that's- if
how,
that-
how does everyone feel about that? Just get rid of management and perhaps get rid of lifetime, if that's just a minor.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many years does
So
the
Joanne, can you please stand and just tell us?
I'm sorry, you want me to go to the podium?
No, you can stand right there is good.
How many
Name.
years does the general manager have to work for the district before he's entitled to medical upon retirement?
That's under PERS, and it's, what, 5 years at the end?
I think it's 5 years and then it's not full. And
Your
then
answer, the answer to that question will be handled in the next item.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to have 10 years of public service, CalPERS public service, and a minimum of 5 years with the district to qualify for retiree medical paid for by the district.
Okay, and does the retiree medical include family?
It does, the spouses, yes.
Spouse.
Okay,
Yeah.
that, to me, that's very unusual. Normally, it doesn't include a spouse. Normally, they include just the employee. So it might be something you wanna think about.
Well, it's with the PERS set up, so I don't know that.
I don't
we
think
can-
PERS covers the spouse.
It does.
Does it now? So it never did before.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a question on vacation though. We didn't put any limit on you. Do we need to put a limit on how much?
A
And
cap?
A cap? That was my only concern.
Up to you.
Is there a cap on the other employees? Would it be appropriate to follow that?
No,
No. Okay.
your supervisory or general manager, generally any management gets a little bit better setup.
Well, there is a
Even
cap,
for the cap?
yeah, there is a cap on this, 25 days per year thereafter, after 15 years.
How many they can, how much they
They
can
can
accrue?
accrue.
Yes,
What is it? So,
most companies have a cap for employees on how many vacation hours you can accrue.
You know what, I think we can probably, work on that at a later time too, that we can actually, discuss that at a later time. I was just curious what the employees are.
Yeah, I'll find it for you. It's 240 on vacation.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Okay. All
Are
right.
you comfortable with that? Would you like a bit more?
No, I'm suggesting that we don't put a cap on it now, that we can come back and discuss it later as far as if that's something we wanna do. I don't think,
Yeah, but there's very little chance that I'll reach any cap 1 year into a employment agreement.
Yeah.
And,
Or
my
even
guess
3
is-
years into
My
it.
guess is you will, you can put that on your list for next year's amendment.
There you go. I'm looking to tie things up long term.
okay, any other comments from the community? Okay, need, back to the board, we need a motion to accept this with the 2 modifications, accept the amendment. Any other, okay,
I was just gonna say, I'll move to, approve the general manager employment agreement amendments, for the alteration of the words management and lifetime and all other included amendments.
Director Johnston and a second by Director McVeigh to accept the employment agreement amendment for the general manager with the minor edits that were made. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, just so you know, that was to also authorize your signature on that amendment.
Yep.
With that, we will move to item E, which is the update on the February 3rd, 2023 MOU between the district and union. I refer to it as UPEC 792, that made it fit all in one line. You've already heard from a speaker that represents them, but primarily want to start this with just a little update on some of the items in that MOU that we are working on. First of all, the employee handbook. You might recall back when this MOU was approved, there was some discussion about what the employee handbook is for the district. There's some documentations that show that the old MOU was actually the employee handbook. But there were items that were put into this MOU, like in Article 12 and 16. One refers to the district will develop a nepotism policy. Well, we got to put one in, so it should be in the handbook. And that there's a reference in the Family Medical Leave Act, and our legal counsel and in consultation with the union representative, that by having it in the handbook, it reduces your MOU by like 15 pages, because it's a really long. There's also just some other items that relates to that. Right now, we have a consultant, RDS Services, that's been helping us with HR stuff. They provided a draft. A lot of the employee handbook is going to refer to different articles within the MOU, but Kayla's been working on that as well. Is there anything more that I missed on that update? So the plan is to get some sort of draft here in the next couple months, right at the beginning of the year. We'll get it to the union and their representatives to start parsing through it and making sure that we're compliant with things. A couple other items to update on. In March of this year, I used the Article 12 to post for a promotional opportunity because there was a vacancy in the treatment and distribution operator 3 or operator B3T3 position, and that position was filled by an internal candidate. So again, the MOU working, right? It worked in that sense. Also, Article 9 called for the annual COLA to be calculated. I reported to the board that. So the COLA was calculated, and it was slightly higher. The CPI was slightly higher over that year than 4%, but it has in that article a range of a minimum of a 2% COLA, maximum 4%. So the 4% COLA was instituted. You can see the job classifications and their steps updated on our website, effective July 1st of 2023, and all people, employees in that, receive that COLA. Also, just to let the board know that there's a few things while we've been using this MOU over the past 9 months. Some edits and clarifications. Kayla's put together a little cheat sheet for me of ones that she has found that eventually we'll figure out how to fix. There's Article 6.12, just for example, we probably need to be more clear on what uniform service is. Article 8, it's not clear, but we need to include all employees, either temporary or part-time employees, should get sick leave pay. There's in Article 9, there's a last sentence that says such pay increase. It should be such pay step increase.
Paul, can I ask a quick question?
What?
All employees, including temporary and part-time employees, get paid sick leave. Is that within the union, or that's state?
State.
Okay, thank you.
And so we do that. It's just, it wasn't clear in there, and why not someday update it to make sure it's clear.
Okay.
For some reason, there's in Article 10, there's a pay period starting 4 hours into the employee's shift on Friday, and that's not accurate, so. And then, we have, potential for 3 reviews during a probationary period of an employee, if you kind of wind your way through the articles in a funny way. So this just needs to be clarified, you don't need that many within 6 months. There's also, eventually when we get into January, there'll be that whole section of the medical benefits that doesn't apply because it applies to January, and thereafter. I'm not sure what this note was, but there's a mention of some sort of $50 deductible on dental, and I don't think that is currently how our dental thing works, and they have flagged that one as potential fix. There's also a couple other items of interest to staff. One, just sort of maybe I'm already working on how we can define what training opportunities are and additional certifications. There's some interest from our staff to changing from 26 pay periods to 24 or bi-monthly. So, if we did that, we have to change a couple articles in the, or maybe one in the MOU, if the board and staff wanted to move forward with that. So those just sort of context a little bit of this item. But the primary reason why we're here is to talk about the other post-employment benefits, or OPEB. So whenever you hear OPEB, it means other post-employment benefits. Now, so the reason why that's a broad term for other post-employment benefits, I mean, you could have another post-employment benefit that says that anybody that's been here 20 years gets to buy the truck that they were in for $10,000. That could be called another post-employment benefit. But in this case, it almost always refers to retiree medical. And so I want to just mention one thing related, it's a bunch of stuff related to that, some background. I've got a lot of background in here, kind of explain it. Very complicated item. But when we were putting together this MOU, we have in there Article 25.4D, says the district reserves the right to make changes to retirement medical benefits and agrees the parties will continue to confer to implement a step-down retiree medical benefit for future employees, anticipating implementation in January of 2024. So based on that, we've been looking at alternatives to the current program, especially as it relates to Article 25.4E, which calls out for the employee contribution to their portion of the long-term liability for retiree medical benefits. It was my thought that based on that article that we could take what the union had proposed as well as other things and have a closed session on it. Our legal counsel thought, why not start the conversation in open session, kind of urge all of us to keep moving faster. But also to give an update on what we've done with the MOU, but also for you to give direction for me to respond to it, and then that'll trigger sort of the legal thing. I don't know if I quite understand all of what her rationale was, but it didn't matter. It's a good opportunity for the community, the board, and obviously now members of the staff to hear a little bit of this item. So a little background, the district offers a retiree medical benefit program. So to answer again that question, it is specifically spelled out in Article 25.4D. The basic qualification is at least 10 years of CalPERS service, or as they put in their credited state service, and at least 5 years with the district. There is a chart on how the benefit ramps from 10 years mark. So once you qualify, then each subsequent year, if you get up to 20 years, you could have the maximum benefit. In other words, in our case, 100% of your retiree medical costs paid for. So back in the mid 2000s, 05, 06-ish time frame, there were some major private sector bankruptcies that caused the Government Accounting Standards Bureau to issue what is subsequently called GASB 75, and there's a whole bunch of other GASBs. But basically that you have to do an assessment of your other post-employment benefits and what its long-term liability is to you. You have to recognize it in your current fiscal year, and you have to do these actuarial reports to show you what it is over the next subsequent 30 years. Because those companies that went bankrupt, Enron, did not. They had billions of dollars of unfunded liability that was not in their books, and then all of a sudden came crashing in on them. So we have been doing that. The district's been doing their GASB 75 requirements and identifying their long-term liability. Some agencies decided to just identify that funding challenge and pay as they went. In other words, they're just going to pay as they go, recognizing that long term. Others, like Clear Creek, set up a retiree trust fund with a goal to fund the trust to cover that identified long-term liability. I supplied to the district, I think the first time it's been seen publicly, the GASB 75 report as of June 30th of 2023 on the September agenda. In there you'll see that it actually shows that the long-term liability for the district for this program is 1.9 million, and that we have about 1.3. It's actually was 1.5. It's kind of bouncing around in our trust fund. And so that is called the California Employers Retiree Benefit Trust. And so that's why you'll hear the term CERBIT. And so that was what the district put money into it to fund that long-term liability. And so the money that they put into that was a combination of the employee's contribution and the district's contribution. There's a whole bunch of other elements as it relates to that, because in most cases you pay as you go on that if you build up the long-term costs. So the way it was planned to work is the survey gets fully funded, the district contributes a yearly amount, it calculates what its fiscal year impact of retiree medical is, and it takes a withdrawal from that trust fund to fund the current year retiree obligation. This year it just so happens to be $95,000. We have 8 retirees. It's going to cost us $95,000 to pay for their retiree medical insurance. Article 25.40 was put in the MOU back in 2011, where the district committed to their portion of the unfunded long-term liability, so help fund that trust fund. That also said that it obligated the employees to pay the current accrual of OPEB costs, which is also known as the service costs or the normal costs when you look at GASB reports. And that long-term liability kind of rises and falls, but rises over time. It fluctuated. There were different fluctuations in withholdings from employees to help fund that. But eventually, it just sort of landed on a number of around 40-some-odd thousand, 45,000. So if you divide it by 11 employees, you can, in 26 pay periods, pretty close to $150 per pay period. In the published GASB 75 report that you all saw in September, our service costs, in other words, the current employee's contribution to that long-term liability was $66,000. So again, the way they calculate this is that your current retirees are receiving the benefit, and you have an expense, like I said, $95,000 for this fiscal year. And then you have current active employees that have a range of age, years of service in CalPERS, years of service at the district. And so what they calculate is what this year, their employment for a year, how much of that is over 30 years, and kind of contributes to that. So again, it's very challenging to kind of recognize that. So let me just also backtrack slightly because everybody seems to get confused by this. CalPERS retirement, so that's the California Public Employees Retirement System. It's a pension. It's just like Social Security. It's just like, IBM pension. 15% of our salaries and wages go into that. Some of it's from employees, some of it is from the district, and that is building, it has a whole bunch of formulas and has a whole bunch of pension stuff related to your specific pension as an employee of a public agency. This, it gets confused a lot, but retiree medical is not the pension side. It is its own animal, I guess for want of a better term. It's its own thing. But it gets confusing because being members of CalPERS retirement and pension makes you eligible to have net retiree medical. And as long as you, as a district, provide CalPERS medical, you are required to provide some sort of retiree medical. Some sort of element program for retiree medical. If the district, and there's many up and down the state of California, decides to say, you know what, we're gonna get rid of CalPERS medical, and we're gonna go with Anthem Blue Cross, or we're gonna go with some other thing, or a lot of Bay Area agencies would go to a combination of Anthem and Kaiser, then there is not necessarily that. You could still be in your CalPERS pension program, you just would not be in their medical insurance program, so therefore you wouldn't be required to provide a retiree medical benefit. But most districts, if they've already had a retiree medical program, would continue it. They would just use a different cost or a different method, and actually gives them a lot more flexibility to some of the changes they make. So that's just parenthetical reminder. I know members of the board and members of the community constantly talk to me and are confused. This is not the pension. This is retiree medical. All right, so back to the service costs. Currently, it was in your last report. Now, if you all recall, because I know before you fell asleep, you read all the pages of your GASB 75 report, that all of the numbers in there, even though it was required to be posted for July 1 of 2023, it's all based on the service and the district's condition as of June 30th of 2022. So, if you look out at our current employees out here, you'll notice that there's only a couple of them that were here in June of 2022. So that normal cost was based on that pool of employees. So when I went to our actuarial and said, all right, we've got this item in our MOU. This was back in March or April. I said, we got this item in our MOU, we gotta work on some alternatives. This $150 per pay period is a major irritant to everybody that works at the district. And so give me some ideas, some costs and stuff. And they said, well, first of all, we've got to finish your July 1, 2023 report. And then we're gonna update that report with all your employee mix as of July 1 of 2023. So that would include all of those of us currently employed by the district. So that helps. But that mix changes our service costs. And I have not gotten, they're still working on all the numbers, but they're saying, yeah, we reported it was 66,000, but insurance has gone up 17% on the platinum, and it's gone up a whole bunch of other stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons why it's quite possible that normal costs under our current program, they were saying it could be 100,000. So we'll see. But the whole goal, and the reason why I kind of bring all this up is our primary goal, it's there underlined, is to find a retiree medical offering for future employees and any current employees who wish to join it that complies with obviously CalPERS rules, reduces the district's long-term liability, takes away the need for the employee contribution to that long-term liability, and of course is somehow sustainable. And to keep the district's current obligation to its current retirees and not change the district's obligation to them, as well as preserve our obligation to current employees opting to stay with the current program. So that's kind of an overriding goal. I think that encapsulates it. And so again, bottom is we've communicated some different scenarios and the options with the goal of removing the active participants from the $150 per pay period. So take a quick breath and go back to why I was trying to differentiate you on CalPERS retirement pension fund versus retiring medical. Because again, it's kind of an oxymoron, but any time you change your vesting for retirement, it is always prospective. So when Pepper came around, that's where everybody hired as of whatever, 2013 on. And everybody that was on prior to that, we call them classic, because they're classic people. And so that they have their own little program. It didn't change it. For retiree medical, it is not. If we change our vesting ordinance, which we probably will, it impacts everybody. So currently, we pay that $95,000. We pay whatever our obligation is to our retirees. For example, if their insurance is $1,000 a month, or in some cases they have two people on Medicare Part B, it's $840 a month. We pay $840 a month. If we change our vesting ordinance to say we're going to go to the required minimum $151 a month, or we're going to go to just $500 a month, or we're just going to go to the Part B amount, or something in between, I don't know, just some other different ideas, then the retirees would then have, let's say, of that $840, and we went to $200, then $200 would be paid for by the district, and the rest of it would be obligation of the retiree. So if any change we make, we need to make them whole, because one of my goals is we don't damage our past retirees. So one of the things we need to, as we move forward in making any change, we got to come up with a communication method and education method of our retirees, because I'm pretty sure, well, maybe they know because they're watching YouTube every month. They know that we're talking about this, but I kind of doubt it. And so they need to be educated as it relates to that. But it's just an oddity of the retiree medical. It's different than the pension. So in other words, if you change the pension formulas, you can do it for the future and not worry about your past. But in this case, it happens to everybody. It's a blanket on everybody. So a couple of the options, and again, these were just given to our actuarial. I think we may want to talk a little bit about the proposal that we received. But one option is you just set a defined amount. I put in your $500. Okay. Everybody's hired from January 1 on. If you spend 10 years and 5 years and you qualify for the benefit, you're going to get $500 a month of your medical paid for. And if your monthly medical is $5,000, then you got to come up with $4,500. The district will pay $500. If your medical is $420, completely covered by the district. So that's one option. You can have a month. You obviously have to have something in there that says someday in the next 30 years the required minimum is going to be above that, so you have to track that. Another one that I've seen in a lot of places is tying it to, in this case, PERS Part B. Currently it's $420 a month. January 1 it goes to $480 or something like that. So so you just tie it to that amount and say, okay, when you retire, the district will pay whatever the current PERS Part B is.
What is PERS Part B?
It's your Medicare Part B supplement cost. So when you turn 65, that's the insurance that you would be converted to.
Because they're not getting any social security deductions.
Right.
So it's done that way.
That's
Huh?
high, but okay.
What's that?
That's high, I don't think people are paying that amount for social security, I mean, for Medicare. It's more like 170 or something.
What
Part B
one?
maybe,
Maybe
but not,
one-
not the regular Medicare, no.
Yeah, Part B.
Part B, yeah.
Part B,
not
yeah, but it
181.
goes up every year.
Well, sure.
Yeah, it does, it does.
But remember, this is like getting Anthem Blue Cross or Kaiser Part B costs.
This is the Medicare gap supplement policy
supplement.
Kirk
Right.
was talking about,
Right,
Alright, so,
not regular Medicare.
right,
another,
but the supplement is not that high.
Yeah, it is, trust me,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm paying
I can tell you
300
right
a
now,
month.
it's not.
Okay.
And it goes to 448 next year,
Okay.
January 1. Alright, so, the other option is you just do your required minimum, so CalPERS does have, because they require you to offer retiree medical to, CalPERS members that are also on CalPERS insurance. They do have a minimum that the district could be obligated with. And this, currently, it's 151 a month. I got a whole chart that's gone from 138 to 141. It's just kind of ramped its way up over time. And it'll continue to do so. And then you could then create a retiree medical savings account, and then you basically, you're obligated to your employees. If they qualify, they then would have a minimal amount contributed to their insurance costs, but the concept is you've put money into a retiree medical savings account to supplement that cost or to pay some of that cost. And again, in the union proposal, and that's attached, and I think we want to have Steve come up and talk some more about it, but it's similar to the required minimum, but as you can see, there's some requests that the district do with 457 accounts, and then you have kind of a vesting, hesitate to use that term, but sort of a schedule in which your contributions become your own, or what kind of that works out, which I think you definitely would want to have something like that. And then there's so those are some we could obviously need to go more over. And then there's the no change option, I guess, or a limited change option. So you could keep the current benefit. And so one of the things that I didn't know for sure, but I have found out, is that the employee's contribution, which supplements the district's yearly obligation or contribution to the service, is it raises $40,000. So in other words, if we decided to change that or remove that and put a portion of that into retiring medical savings accounts or other things, a couple things. One, the district would be not collecting $40,000. So in other words, that $40,000 would be an obligation of the district to contribute to make that up. But it also does not mean that the district is not still obligated if they qualify for some minimum or some contribution. But I think to encapsulate the irritating part of this is that this program was really set up for the long-term employees previous to the district, almost all of which spent their whole career, 20 years here at the district, and therefore they're getting 100% of their medical paid for. And the current active employees are contributing to that, and of course their own future, but the likelihood of them making it here 10 years and not maybe going to another public agency or
Oh, they're all staying.
is also there. And so they've watched, and since I've been here, there's been multiple employees that have gone on to other places of employment. And in some cases, they've walked away from anywhere from $5,000 to $28,000 that they've contributed to this future benefit that they don't get anything for. And so that's why we really would like to find something that has a happy medium that they can contribute to, like a healthcare savings account or something like that. Because if they leave, it's portable, they can take it and use it for their future retirement medical costs. But conversely, you know, we gotta find a way in which that funding makes sense. In other words, okay, yeah, you know, if the district said, okay, we're not gonna collect that anymore, it'd be basically a $2 an hour raise for everybody. So, but it'd be nice to make sure that it's being put into something that they can take with them and use at some point. So that's why we're looking for it. I think, you know, in the end, I'd like to have Steve come and talk a little bit. He can disavow everything that I said, that's okay too, because this is all very complicating, and part of my duty here today, I feel, was to educate as much as we possibly can. And what I'm gonna ask you at the end of all this is to direct me to write a letter of response to the union and to start talking about things like, what are some of the costs? What can we do as it relates to communicating to our current retirees if we make some sort of change? What are the implementation steps? I kind of thought we could do this with just a modification or a side letter. I'm being told by my experts we can do it with a combination of an MOU modification side letter, but you're gonna have to do some sort of vesting ordinance. And in my early interaction with the CalPERS retiree vesting ordinance expert, who called me back about a month or so ago and was not as helpful as I had hoped to be. She was as snippy as they come, but I didn't know any. But I think, you know, we need to work with them. So those are some of the things I think you should direct me to do, to work on it, so we can get this thing implemented and resolved and make everybody out. So that's my long recitation, but hopefully we are all more knowledgeable now than we were 15 minutes ago.
Okay. Steve?
Thanks. It's complicated. So, the employee's interest when we were bargaining last year, so the union proposed this, was to get that $150 reduction off their backs. You know, that was our proposal. And we were unsuccessful. You know, what we got out of that proposal, and said when everything else was we'll talk about it later. And that's what that language says. We'll meet and confer, that is negotiated. Now, with the intent to try to get rid of that payment out of their checks by January. And we'll do that privately. I'm a couple of board members, maybe, or whatever, right? And that's where this kind of business gets done, and then it's reported back to the public. However, I'll never miss an opportunity to talk to you guys about these kinds of issues, because they're really complicated, and Paul did a pretty good job. I mean, first, I appreciate you tracking the need to update the MOU and administer it, and we'll work with you on that, make sure everything's right. He did a pretty good job on the retiree medical thing. I'll just add a little bit and then support his request that we negotiate a solution to this issue. So, he's right, the PERS retirement has nothing to do with, he's using the term the retiree medical. I don't want to use that term. I want to say PERS medical. PERS has two programs, the retirement program and the medical program. A piece of the medical program, which is providing medical insurance, right? You can enroll in it or not. You don't have to. Some agencies are just in the PERS retirement, some are in the PERS retirement and the PERS medical, like here. You can actually just be in the PERS medical, not even be in the retirement. Very few agencies do that. But if you're in the PERS medical system, which is a long name, the acronym is PEMCA. So if you're in the PERS medical, because you've decided that's how you're gonna offer medical coverage to your employees, PERS requires, as a matter of administrative law, that you help retirees when they retire with some other retiree coverage. And that's where that minimum employer contribution comes from. That's a PERS requirement, or if you're in their medical plan, the employer has to give retirees the opportunity to get financial help with their retirement coverage. Now, you don't get it unless you sign up as a retiree for the PERS retirement program. You don't have to do that. You may have a spouse that, you may be military and have, military coverage. You may have a spouse that's a nurse or school teacher. You may get it somewhere else. You don't have to get the PERS medical. But if the retiree does, PERS requires, today, it's $151 a month that the district has to pay their retiree. I've been doing this long enough. I remember when it was 14 months. That's a minimum, like 47 years ago, when we started doing union work, right? It goes up with a little CPI escalator every year. So it'll be 151, it'll be 154, maybe 157.50. It'll creep up over the years. But that minimum employer contribution, we call the MEC, the MEC, is a requirement associated with being in the PERS medical PEMCA program. If you leave the PERS medical program and get your coverage somewhere else on the open market through Aqua, is that the acronym for
Aqua JPA.
Yeah, they have medical coverage. There's other options out there. Not too many in Northern California, but there are other options. If you leave, as Paul says, the PERS medical, the PEMCA system, your legal obligation to help the retirees with their retiree coverage ends. So one way to get rid of your liability of having to pay for retiree medical coverage is to find some other medical plan, get the hell out of PEMCA. Not advocating that, I don't want you to do that. I'm just trying to explain the full picture, right? So, side note, that's why I was concerned about that term lifetime, because it almost looked like it could create a legal obligation on the district to continue to pay for somebody's lifetime retiree medical coverage without even being in the PERS system anymore. That's why I brought that to your guys' attention. Because you can encumber yourselves above the minimum that PERS requires. You can vote to promise all kinds of stuff that becomes a legal contract between you and general manager or employees. So you gotta be careful with that stuff. You don't wanna do that. Be real careful. Anyway, the reason this is a problem area is because back in the day when, like Shasta County, I negotiated them with the PERS medical back in the early 90s, went into the PERS medical plan because there's not much else up here, and PERS will take anybody. A lot of medical plans will give us your census, how old is everybody, how many are this gender or that gender, and public sector employment generally is a bad risk. Companies don't like it, they want to make a lot of money. Public employees tend to use more services, and certainly retirees do. So I've actually had, like Lassen County a couple of years ago, we were trying to find an alternative to PERS medical, and everywhere we went, nobody would issue a quote. So, but PERS will, because they're a statewide program, and they're really there not for this district or cities and counties, they're for the state employees. These cities and counties and special districts that participate just kind of tag along like stepchildren on the main family plan there. It's really for the state employees, but they let us participate. But back in the day, the premium for the active employees was, family coverage was like $300. It was inexpensive. So the fact that the employers had to pay for the retirees, because the basic rule with the PERS medical system, forget about that minimum for a second, is that whatever you give the active employees, and there's usually 3 numbers, employee only, employee plus spouse, family, so 3 numbers. Whatever you give your active employees, that's what you have to give the retirees. Didn't matter when the premiums were $80, $220, and $300. But it sure as hell started to matter when the rates started going up over the decades, right? So that all of a sudden, the employers who were paying their retirees, Shasta County, 1,800 retirees maybe the last time I looked. That became a huge cost. So if you're giving an active Shasta County employee $1,200 for their family coverage, that's what you're giving a retiree. You're giving an employee $800, that's what you're giving a retiree. It's a huge bill. So a few years ago, some of the employers started coming to us and saying, you know what, I'll hold Shasta County because I negotiated there since 83. We're not gonna be able to afford to give you guys a COLA, because our bill for this retiree coverage is too big. You gotta help us, you gotta get this off our back, if you ever are gonna negotiate a cost of living raise for your members. I'm like, oh crap, right? So we sat down, started working with them, and at the time, the Shasta County auditor, Brian Muir, who's since retired, had implemented, I think he came from Mono County, this program where he realized that rule of whatever we give the actives, we have to give the retirees, that there was a workaround. And the workaround, I'm surprised you guys aren't asleep. I don't want to shoot myself when I have to talk about this. But the workaround is to step down the active coverage to that minimum. You can't go lower. PERS says, we don't care what you give your active employees, but you gotta give, at least you gotta give them $151 that minimum amount is in any given year. So the workaround is drop what you give the actives all the way down to the minimum. Now, that's all you gotta give the retirees. That's a bit harsh though, right? We don't want to do that. It's also harsh on the active employees, because you're not gonna hire anybody if you're only gonna give them $150 for medical. But then you do a cafeteria plan, and I'll just say, let's just use a round example. $1,000 you want to give an employee for medical insurance. You can do it in 2 pieces. Call the first $151 medical insurance. Call the other, I'm not doing that, $849. Maybe that's it. Get to 1,000. Call that a cafeteria benefit. The active employee still gets the $1,000. They don't know it's in 2 pieces. But by doing that maneuver, PERS will honor the retirees only getting the $151. That's how you agree to lower that horrible, huge cost. You know, it was just screwing everybody up, and it's a concern here, right? But you also don't want to screw your retirees with your current employees that expect to have a higher benefit when they retire, right? You can drop it down to that minimum for somebody that's not hired yet. Because they're taking the job knowing that's all they're going to get for retirement. But everybody else up to that point, including current employees, might expect the benefits you have, right? The workaround for that is for the retiree, which gets back to communicating, is if you don't want to hurt them, and we wouldn't want to, I hope, you give them the makeup amount also. Because when you change it like I described, you only pay PERS for the retiree that $151, as Paul said, the rest of their premium comes out of the retirement check automatically. But it's deposited via an EFT transfer to the checking account that they give PERS, that's a requirement to get your pension now. The employer, Shasta County does it this way, and this is the way we're proposing it, sends an EFT for the difference. In my example, that $849, so the retiree also gets the same amount, it's just in 2 pieces. The county paid the first $151, and the balance of the premium that's owed comes out of their check, but the employer deposits it. That's how you do this in a way that makes it legal to do a step down. I call it the step down program for future employees. It's complicated, but it's absolutely doable. All you gotta do is copy what Shasta County did, and they've done it with all their bargaining units over the last 10 years or so, and it's working for them. And they're starting to negotiate COLAs with us again, because they're thinking 30 years out. Because it's not getting them off the hook for the current retirees, or the current employees, but they know over a career, as they start hiring people, it'll start being a lower liability. And those actuarial valuations, if you do a step down program like this, they'll immediately readjust your valuation and drop it significantly. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden it was 100% funded. If you're 80% funded now, and you step that down like that, so that your promise to pay retirees is only that minimum going forward for the rest of whatever, worker's career, that's how they build those valuations. So really, if you guys want to keep the current benefit, cool, we're good with that. All I want is that $150 off of the employees' backs. But just like Shasta County said, we're not gonna give you a COLA if you don't help us reduce the liability. I was thinking ahead, thinking, to get the district to wanna play ball with us and get that $150 a paycheck off the members, off the employees' backs, we probably have to agree to do that step down for future hires. So why not just propose it out the gate? Why mess around? And that's what we do. proposed to allocate. So I don't know, is that raising questions? That's where our proposal, another little piece of the proposal that we did with Shasta County, because they recognize that a new employee who might stick it out isn't gonna get much of a retired medical benefit anymore, they're only gonna get that minimum, whatever it is then, maybe it's up to $200. I don't know, right? They recognized that wasn't good for recruitment and retention, so they actually proposed, and we worked it out, to do a match for deferred comp. So if an employee puts money into their 457 plan, which you guys now have on a voluntary contribution basis, the first 3% that employee puts in, the county matches into another deferred comp plan. It's called a 401A. It's the same thing as a 457 with a slight difference. A 457, the minute you put $1 in it, from your own check, or if the employer matches and puts $1 in, it's your money. And if you quit the next day, you take it with you. A 401A allows the employer to have a vesting component in Shasta County. I put it in the proposal. We did a 10-year vesting. So that, okay, the county's gonna match. If I put in, $50, and the county puts in, that's only 3%. They'll put in $50. I put in 100. They still only put in 50 because it's capped. But that $50, that's not mine to walk away with. Until over time, each year it's vested at a 10% level. It takes me 10 years to get it totally vested. Now, the day the program started, if you count the years you're already with the county. So if I'm a 15-year employee, and I start this program, and the county starts putting in, that's my money to walk away with because I'm at that 10-year vesting. That was fine. The other thing we did was offer the current employees, and it's part of our proposals, the opportunity to do I want to give up the significant retiree medical benefit that you guys have implemented over the years and it's sitting there that I'm entitled to. I don't want that. Personal choice. I don't think I'm going to stay with the district. I don't need it. I want that 3% match. So I'll waive my right to get it and go on the new program, the step-down program. It's a one-time irrevocable decision. That, the people that do that, I think there's interest in some of the employees that would take I'm going to do a survey, but I think there's interest. That lowers that valuation down too, because as soon as the actuarials see that the number of people that are entitled to the bigger benefit over their career is now this money instead of this many, they'll ratchet down that cost on that valuation. So a one-time opportunity to opt to give up the more significant benefit that you guys have implemented over the years, I wasn't here, and go on the new step-down plan with the little match is interesting to a lot of people. And I have people that are in the military, that have that coverage, I have people that have spouses that, and that's why we want to get that $150 off, and as Paul correctly identified, appreciated it in writing, it's like, people don't, why do they want to help pay for the people that have already retired? Even the actuary said that, it's like that group of employees and that management team at the time basically said, we want as much retired medical, I think, as possible, and guess what? We'll agree to pay out of our checks for it because we're not gonna have to pay very long. These guys are gonna have to keep paying for it. So all our current folks are paying to help write that check. We're paying 40 of the 95 or whatever it is. That's not fair. So let's step it down for future employees. Let's create an option. And our proposal does all this. I don't like any of the other ideas I've heard that I've seen in here. I like what we did in Shasta County because that was a result of management coming to us with an idea that we got convinced would be okay. It took months of negotiating. So that's a package deal that we know works already. So if you guys offer direction for us to meet in closed session and bargain, that's what we're going to be looking for. Just heads up. We think it works. Any more questions? I didn't need to worry out. It's just really complicated.
It's very complicated.
Yes,
I don't
it
think we can, I've got a few questions, but I think it's more for Paul than.
Okay, I'll stand nearby.
Okay.
In case I need to correct you. He's a good sport. He doesn't mind.
Okay, so anything from the employees?
You guys want to add anything to what I said? You hate the $150 coming out of your check, don't you?
Sir. I I understand that, and I want to work with them to the best of our ability, but I cannot take a fiscal hit to the customers either.
Yeah.
So there's gotta be some balance in there. I know there's other things you're looking to try to get done, and we have to do our fiduciary responsibility and do the best we can for not only you, but for the customers and the rate they're paying. By the same token, I don't wanna hurt our long-term employees who have been here. May only be 3 of them, but, you know, we owe them. So what we can do to help you guys, I'm happy to help. Okay?
So, some of the questions that I have is that if, will we continue to have to put in our fair share for the current retirees into the PERS retiree medical?
That wasn't super clear, so I'm gonna answer it this way. If you're referring to the current retirees that that are currently on PERS medical, we will, I believe we are both morally and, maybe even legally, because you can go back and look at some of the resolutions that we've done, obligated to pay what we are currently paying on their medical.
Okay.
I think the mechanics of it is what is challenging, and you heard the description of that, but, now I have seen instances where the change to the retiree medical program, because like I just described, it happens to everybody. It's not necessarily like the retirement pension system over there. So you go to 151, that's what we're gonna be paying. That's gonna be our obligation on that monthly PERS bill. And so we would then the rest of it will come out. So you'd have to make it up. So that's why I'm answering it long, because yes, we will be continuing to pay that.
Okay. So,
I agree with that, if I could add, but I do think that your trust fund you set aside, that you, good work, somebody put a big chunk of money into, and it's been.
that was my point. I was
It
trying
may
to
be because it's already funded at 80% without any changes, if I understand it right.
About 70%, but close to
70%.
7, 8.
It may very well be, and I don't know if the actuary's been asked this, if the district steps down to the minimum for future employees, say January 1, date certain, what effect does that have on that fund? Does it all of a sudden become 95% funded or 100%? Because the idea of having that trust fund, if I understand it right, Paul, correct me please if I get this wrong, is it's sitting there, PERS administers it, there's interest that accrues, and it supports a payment you have to make for the retirees, and you don't have to take it out of your grants or your ongoing expenses.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're almost there. And by
About
doing this,
90,000 a year, the interest, I believe, pretty close.
and it may be that with the step down for the future, that the bean counters that do the actuaries and all that say, you guys are good. You don't have to supplement with a payment. It may be.
Joanne?
From experience, I wanted to throw something out. I worked for a CalPERS school district in the Bay Area. They were paying for the first 3 years, they paid my health insurance when I retired. Then I went into the minimum amount that he talked about, and then 3 years ago, I got a letter from them saying that they had dropped CalPERS. They were now going with another insurance company, and my retirement payments was so high, I couldn't afford it, so I had to go on the open market, I picked up AARP, and then I had to pick up a prescription plan. So now I'm paying almost $350 a month.
For your
And
supplement.
I was there 25 years, and they're contributing nothing to my retirement.
Yeah.
Not your retirement, but your medical.
My medical retirement,
Yeah.
I'm getting nothing from my school district that I spent 25 years with. So if you want to eliminate your liability totally, you can do what they did. You can go find another insurance company with really high premiums for retirees. Your retirees will drop out, and then all you have to worry about are your employees that you have right now. That's a morally irresponsible thing to do, but that's what my school district did.
No,
But that's what most people on social security have to deal with every day.
Well, I'm just saying, this is retiree medical. And if you're worried about an obligation to your employees to provide them retiree medical, the ones that haven't already, that are in CalPERS, this is how you can get out of that obligation. You can drop CalPERS, you can pick up another insurance plan for your employees you have now with a premium that's so high for your retirees that they won't pick it up, they'll go on the open market and pick up something else. So you eliminate the retirees and you're only providing for your current employees, which is not morally, I thought that was very morally irresponsible.
Terrible story.
But this is what happened to me after 25 years working for them, so.
So when I gave that example of it's a PERS medical requirement, if you're not in a PERS medical plan, you don't have to pay anything, that's that example. If they got out, and there
Yeah.
goes your health with your
Nothing
retirement
for
medical.
their employees,
But
right,
that
retirees.
injures the retirees and the few long-term employees we have, because they would be the retirees eventually too. And then we're just cutting the legs out from underneath them.
Yeah, see, I think we wanna honor the obligations, promises that have been made, but if we make a knowing decision to reduce for future employees, that's different. Because if you're taking a
Right.
job knowing it's only this much, and if you do agree to do the 401A match, then you're letting the employee self-fund with some assistance into that deferred comp system, to fund the retirement.
I'm
Just
gonna
a
wanna
different way to
see
do it.
numbers on this.
Yeah, that's my concern too, is the numbers, because especially with the funding, is if the employees are wanting their contributions reimbursed to them, what impact is that on this 70%, this 1.3 million? I mean, we've got 3 long-term employees, right? And if they're wanting those funds out of the kitty pot, or whatever we wanna call it, how much is that? How much has Bill contributed over the years, or Chad, I don't know who's Roberto, might be the longest. So I'm concerned with what that is and how you can put that in a 401A or whatever, if that's the way we go.
Yeah, you're correctly pointing out it's a cost, but it's also if one of the long-term employees made the one-time voluntary decision to opt for the step down, when they retire, you're not writing that check for their medical anymore either, because they're not entitled to the big, so it's costing you money here, but it's saving you money on the other end.
So you're saying that if we did a 401A or whatever, the step down, that throws me off, your analogy with the step down.
Sorry.
But that's okay, that's my problem. That
They're giving up,
they're not gonna have any retiree medical.
they'll have the $151.
Why will they have the
Because
$151?
PERS requires it as a
Because that's the minimum requirement, which will grow up gradually.
As long as you're in the PERS medical, you gotta at least do $151.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
So again, those are definitely options, it's a proposal to use some of the past, I think, that you don't have to necessarily do that, but the money that's been contributed to your service to date, for all past, because a lot of that money is from people that have been here, contributed, and gone, right? They're not even-
Yeah.
But it's actually helping us out in the
Right.
future. So, one of the reasons why your long-term liability cannot go to zero is because you are still obligated to some required minimum. And so, they do some sort of calculation to say, well, year 25 from now, it's gonna be at, $293.50. They'll figure that out, so that is part of it. The other, I've been verbally told by our actuarial that, cause I opined that, hey, we do a step down, and if we have 70% of our actives decide to join this program, and 3 that decide to stay on the old program, or 6 and 4, I don't know, just pick a number, what does that do? Does that get us to the trust fund, to our obligation, and then we can treat it like we've always decided to treat it in the future, which is every July 1, you do a quick calculation in your budget. Currently this year's 95,000, and you tell the servant, this is what it's gonna cost us. They cut you a check and then that would be the hope, but I've been verbally told by our actuarials that that's a very nice desire. We're not sure that's gonna happen in the immediate because of all of the cost escalation and the uncertainty of how many would, current take the step down, to use that term. And what that impact, because you still can't get your service costs down to zero either. So all those things are what we're gonna go back to them to get. I mean, we need that, that's what they're working on. And I think they're supposed to call me Monday and say, okay, this is our latest update on what we're looking at. I've sent them the letter that was sent to me by the union and said, man, I haven't got authority to do this yet from the board, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway, start running your numbers. So that's why we're having this conversation. So
Yeah, I
we
can
can
share that when we made the maneuver with Shasta County to do the step down, they immediately saved like $40 million on their unfunded OPEB costs. So.
Sure.
Steve, can you recommend the person at the county to talk to? Would that be Nolda
Well, I wish
Shore?
Brian was still around. He we brought it to our union meetings to explain it, he was really helpful. I'm not sure over there who it would be, but you guys can find out.
Okay.
They've kind of had a bunch of staff change. He might still be in the area though. I think he owns the Weaverville Hotel.
Wherever we go, we'll see.
Yeah, I know.
Invite him down. One of my concerns would be if we come up with some way to eliminate the 150 per paycheck, are we still obligated for that 40,000 though? And is that then gonna be on the backs of the customers? So automatically we don't.
Unless the trust is supported.
right.
And that's what we would need to know.
Yeah.
I've gotta be able to see it in writing that yes, it will support what we're doing.
So
And then
Yeah, and the employees themselves, that 150, they don't get it, it's going into a 401. So they're still obligated to pay $300 a month into their,
No,
no?
No.
Okay. Then,
You can explain it better.
I didn't hear the question.
oh, we were standing, right?
So where does that 150 per pay period go? Does it go into the 401A?
Right
Does
now.
it go into the 457, or does it go into the employees?
Oh, it just stops coming out of check.
No,
Because right now,
under your proposal.
under our proposal, it stops coming out of your check. Now, that may allow somebody to voluntarily want to put some money into the 457, which
That's what I'm
could drive a match,
we still owe
but
it
there's no
under
requirement.
It stops coming out of our checks. We would have to make up the difference.
well, no, I understand.
Somebody has to you shake your head, but somebody has to pay for it. So somebody's gonna have to pay for it.
would lower your liability for us.
So,
Not necessarily.
so I understand the 150 is not going to the PERS trust fund. I understand that. But the whole reason we went to Social Security, not here, but the big world went into Social Security is because people weren't saving. So if the employees are not obligated to put away some money for their retiree medical and be able to pull it out, will it ever happen? No, so I understand what the employees want, but we're also having to safeguard what the employees want.
No, I think it's, we deal with ideas like that all the time, some employees don't do what's good in their own self-interest, they're younger, they're gonna spend money on their truck payments, they
Right.
put money aside. I have learned over the years not to try and manage my members' lives, they make their own choices. Because they're all in different situations, and they may have other plans or other ways to cover medical, or they may have some kind of cancer and they're not planning on using it. I mean, who the hell knows what's going on in somebody's life?
Do you have a comment, Bill?
If we stop paying $150 a month,
300 a month.
or I'm sorry, $150 a paycheck, 300, well, some months it's more than that. We didn't necessarily need to invest that in anything. We can appreciate the board wanting to help us with our long-term finances. But the trust is still going to be there for the district to pull money out of.
Correct.
So We wouldn't be relying completely on the employees. There's still money there for the district. And that's coming from somebody that's invested more than any of the retirees into this program. I've got at least $50,000 into this.
And so you deserve to have the protection of that.
You know, if I'm not gonna get the benefit that I was promised, because it was sold to me as lifetime medical, yeah, kinda want my money back. So, I mean, you can appreciate that. Furthermore,
Under our proposal,
Right,
we'll
right.
be able to keep it.
Furthermore,
Hmm?
if somebody gives you $100, and then in 5 years, they ask for the $100 back, you're not out any money. In theory, because it was our contribution. So that's all we're asking for is our contribution. Under our proposal. Thank you.
I understand that, and I think I wanna see it in writing, so that I can digest it and better understand it. It's good, the explanation, but for me, I need to see the tables and, you know, how it's gonna work out.
Getting information is helpful, right? Because actuarials are.
They're difficult, but if you sit down, you can work through them.
Yeah, sometimes I think they just have a dartboard.
If we, oh, go ahead.
No, I don't think actuaries are that, they deal with numbers and 2 + 2 = 4, and so they're trying to make sure that everybody's money is guarded, and that's kind of where we are, is we need to make sure that these guys' money is guarded, but we also have an obligation to the customers.
That's a much
Because
more
previous-
responsible statement than what I said, thank you.
Because previously, the only money, to be honest with you, that was guarded was a few of the employees, but not our customers.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not doing this because we don't have anything else to do.
No.
It just is, I mean, you guys probably don't know this, some of you new ones, Bill does. You know, we get paid a rip-roaring $100 a month. And we're here usually, you know, visiting, looking at paychecks and stuff, 2 or 3 days, sometimes 2 days a week, maybe more. But the fact is that we have to really make sure that we guard to make sure that this district stays viable, because you guys, it was almost on the verge of not being viable. And so, yeah, we scrutinize every penny, but that's because we're digging ourselves out of a very deep hole.
I appreciate what you just said.
Can I ask a question? What's the $300 go towards?
Paying the retiree medical for people that have already retired.
How about do they have no retiree medical then? when
They do, they're pre-funding themselves, is in better terms. They're
Yeah, I
pre-
would rather talk to it about, like that, because when you guys retire, you're gonna like having that money. Hey, I know now it sounds, you're young, okay? But trust me, you get old fast. And you're gonna like having that money funding your retirement medical, because it's
What
very.
if the district does what your school district does?
What if they do? Well, if you guys are honest with them and treat them courageously and in a nice manner, they won't do that, hopefully.
I
I'm
won't
saying
be
is
here
that
when they
At
retire.
a point in time, it's out of the union's control which medical plan the district's in. And 20 years from now, or 15 years from now, they could switch to a different plan and everything goes poof, and they end up in your personal situation.
Okay, so what you're saying to them is they should just do what my district did, give them back their money, and then they'll have nothing at the end.
I didn't say that.
I mean, in the grand scheme,
That's what it
what
sounds
they
like.
worked in a few years.
No.
In the grand scheme of it,
Hold
where's
on,
it
hold
gonna
on.
go? What kind
This
of-
isn't
Yeah.
a forum. Talk to the board, it's a board.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me, they're just not being forced, they're not thinking ahead, but that's, you know, they're gonna eventually understand that when they get to be retirement age.
So the $300 that they're getting taken out of their check, will no longer be taken out of their check. Will they be paying towards their medical, or they're relying solely on the trust fund to pay for it?
No, the
No,
current
they would be
employee will
opt-
get nothing,
They would be opting out at one time,
no medical at
so
all.
there'd be no medical.
They'd be entitled to $151.
Okay, yeah.
But this would give the employees the option of investing their own money versus somebody else playing with their money.
And why that's
Which-
attractive is because not everybody's going to want to or make it to use this expensive benefit that they're helping to pay for.
Mhm.
They may not need it, they may not work here, you have to go right from work here to retirement to qualify for it. Whereas the
Right.
401k and the 457 self-funded is portable.
Yeah.
And you can use that for other purposes, including retiring medical in another company, for example.
So you would be encouraging them to do some sort of a retirement HSA or something? If they opted out, they had the extra 300 a month, it would behoove them to be smart enough to say, I don't need a fancier new car with those payments, but I really need to be smart about setting myself up for the
That's
future.
not what's being said here.
Huh?
No, that's not.
Well, in a sense, I think that's what the employees are looking for, though, is the opportunity, especially if they're not gonna be here long enough to be fully vested.
Oh, I understand what they're looking
Now,
at. I get it, that's not what's being said.
Well-
It's not, yes, there's an option for it, but
There's the option.
in all of the explanations, it's an option, it's an
That's
option
right.
for a step.
We're not
it's
setting it
forced to
up,
step down.
they have to choose it for themselves.
Right.
Yes.
So I wanna talk about Union Proposal A. If you could tell me what the 457 and what our portion would be if we, did a comp matching, what are we looking at? Is that any kind of a savings? So perhaps maybe on that proposal, we could get a cost of what, a breakdown of what that would be. Are we talking $151 or $302 a month that we match? So,
I mean, it's a proposal, I mean, first of all, I wanted to make a quick comment that selecting any kind of version of this does not eliminate the,
correct.
PERS medical benefit. If they qualify and retire and do all the other stuff, the district will be on the hook for 151. By that time, it might be 161.
Or 200,
Okay, or
right?
whatever it's gonna be.
Mhm.
So the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
concept is that future cost, I mean, right now, we're on the hook for who knows what. I mean, for some of our retirees, we're paying $840, for some of them, we're paying $600. For some that aren't reached, 65 yet, we're paying a couple thousand, right?
Right.
So the fact that we would only be obligated for that required minimum, that is to reduce that long-term cost to be able to, overwhelm walking away from $40,000 that we get, that we contribute to it, because that is part of the contribution. So as it relates to this, I don't know, I'll let Steve kind of explain kind of what this is. Now, just to remember now too, I mean, we're not, if we go to some sort of required minimum, that is a required minimum for the retirees. I mean, that's not a required amount, that's just sort of like a baseline amount for.
The question is, how much would the match cost? It doesn't cost anything until somebody who's on the step-down plan, which may not be any of the current employees, they may not exercise their one-time option to do it. I think some will, but let's say none do. Then you wouldn't be doing a match for an employee until you hire a new employee after a date certain, January 1 of 24, whenever, we work this out. And that employee does a voluntary deferment to the 457 plan, and then the district would match up to whatever we agreed to, capping at 3%. So if I'm making, $2,000 and I put in 3%, what is
off, if they don't opt to take the step down, what happens to the 150 that is taken out right now?
Well, we haven't negotiated, and we're, right now, we're stuck. They're gonna
Yeah.
keep paying the 150 till, unless and until we work something out. So they're entitled to the rich retiree medical benefit the district provides, but they're hoping that they may or may not ever use, and they're helping to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if they don't use it, they're not gonna get their money back.
Nope.
So, you know, if it was you were putting 151 paycheck, and if you left and didn't use it, you got to take it with you, that's a whole different story, but they can't. It's just gone.
Correct.
So what, my understanding with PERS, and of course, it's ancient knowledge that
Are you a PERS retiree?
I had PERS back in 1977 for 3 years.
All right.
And I was told then, go, if you ever come back, pay back into like your
That's for the pension, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay, so, but if you go to another PERS place and worked in another facility or government agency that had PERS, you could,
Apply your time.
apply your time.
Pension, nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Nothing to do with medical, okay?
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
That's why I spent so much time on that. Yes.
That's why you.
Well, what you said was really interesting, because it's like Social Security and then you get Medicare. So they're talking about, one is the retirement and the other one is the medical. So it's just like Social Security and Medicare.
Yes, to a certain degree. So the reason why you gotta get that out of your brain about get it so they're separated. Because you can go, and any of us that are currently members of PERS as a retirement benefit could go to a PERS agency that does not have TEMCO, or doesn't have PERS medical.
Yep.
So that's part of the reason why we're trying to deal with this risk.
City of Reading,
Exactly.
PERS
So-
retirement, not PERS medical.
Yeah, they have.
Somebody goes over there, none of this retired medical stuff applies. They have their own program that they put in place, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
So, we've had people that have gone there and they walked away from a lot of contributions to this program. And I think we need to find a way to make that better. And that's part of what we're doing here. I don't think we're gonna solve it here, so
No.
hopefully you will, just say, we direct you to do as you ask me to be directed.
in 1 minute, I will. So I had some questions in regards to the updates that you were talking about earlier about on the MOU with some of the articles.
Alright.
Do we want to go through that now, or do we want to,
Not really.
okay,
No,
yeah, no, which
This
is fine.
was for information
Oh,
purposes.
okay, so at the point that we go to do some negotiations or whatever, or closed sessions, then I can bring up some of the questions I have.
Sure.
I mean, one of them was, I thought we wanted to perhaps maybe start the pay period on a Monday, and that wasn't in this. And
Well, no, I mentioned it under, number 5, which is other items of interest, changing it to bi-monthly, 26 pay periods versus 24.
But that's not starting your pay period on a Monday, because I think it starts now on a Friday or something.
If it was changed to semi-monthly, it would be, say, the 1st through the 15th. paid
Oh,
on
it
the
all
20th.
automatically takes care of that issue.
Yes,
Got
it does.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Thanks, Kate.
What would
I
the
mentioned that
benefit
better
be
than
to-
I understood.
What would the benefit be to, go from 26 to 24 for the employees?
Less payroll runs.
Yeah, those are good payroll.
One
Yeah.
employee.
But it
That's
will
for
bump
one
that
employee.
150 of pay paycheck up a little bit because you'll have only 24 pay periods instead of 26. It's a minor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But it would still
You know,
average out the same.
yeah, one of the challenging things is, we have in our MOU, our benefits, we contribute up to $1,400 per month for medical benefit. And so when we calculate it, we gotta go 1,400 times 24, times 12, divided by 26 to figure out
Mhm.
what the, withholding are per pay period.
Right.
So I think for some employees, they'd rather just be able to easily calculate.
If you agree to our OPEB proposal, maybe we'll consider changing the payroll.
And then the other is, you better check with your membership, because they're the ones who are interested.
I just got a thumbs up.
You know,
We don't wanna change the pay period number.
Yes, you do. Oh, okay, so just one further question. If we refund all the employees their past thing, it's just a check? They just get a check for whatever?
We were thinking it would go into the deferred comp, so you don't pay taxes on it.
Oh, no, I want to keep it, no.
That's what we were thinking, but go ahead.
well, first of all, you're presupposing that that's happened.
No, if we go that route, if we
Well,
went
then
that
you
route.
that's part of what you gotta negotiate, you gotta figure out.
Yes.
Okay.
And we need to give our general manager some
Okay.
direction, so we can get some hard numbers.
But don't forget that if an employee were to have that option, to work this all out, and they exercise it, yes, under our proposal, they get paid back their contributions. But then the district doesn't have to pay that higher retirement benefit too. So there's a cost and a savings. How that pencils out, I'm not sure. I just know that those are two good ideas.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor in regards to this matter? Comments? Okay.
To everything stated, or just the OPEB?
Anything? Sure, anything. As far as agreement, we're on the MOU.
I think, well, with all the employees that were here, and now that they've all left, I think going to 24 or whatever we just said, 24 from 26 pay periods would be a topic of discussion, a very big topic of discussion with all the employees. So,
Okay.
because I think someone stated that the employees favored it, and I believe we don't. The majority of us don't.
Okay. So,
Well, you might wanna have your own union meeting then.
yeah,
That
discuss.
would be.
Yeah.
You guys asked for open input, you're getting it.
Pretty much.
Which is fine, but there's, I guess, pros and cons. Do a pros and cons of advantages and disadvantages of going that route.
We'll talk about it, if it ever becomes an actual proposal, of course, we'll have a union meeting and then respond, but it's not. It's not yet.
Yeah. It was a thought process by, some employees and, okay.
It's lean in somebody's eyeball, but it's not a proposal.
I would like to see a Saturday close meeting.
Okay, so we are moving on
Do
to,
we need to give direction to our general manager in reference to this?
yeah, the direction is we need a little more clarification, a little more number crunching and then, come back.
If I could suggest you get that, because you need it for your decision making, but do it in closed session from now on. We've had the open discussion.
Yes.
This was designed to be a bargaining matter. That's what it says in the contract. I was a little horrified and surprised when I found out it was gonna be on the open agenda, but I thought, oh well, I'll play ball. I'll come and try and help do my share to educate whoever's here. But it's designed to be in private negotiation session. So I would suggest you don't set it for another open, that's your call.
No.
Don't set it that way. Let us work on it behind the scenes, and you guys can do your due diligence in closed session.
Thanks.
That's just a suggestion.
Good?
So what I heard is that you directed me to respond to the union's proposal and to, work on some costs and other steps, and as part of the quote, we prefer component of that, so that we can, next time meet in closed session.
Yes. Thank you.
Sounds good? All right, general manager's report, try to make it, quick. I think you all know already about some of the major breaks that we've had in the system since I drafted this. So in other words, we posted this on Thursday, and that morning was when the big Happy Valley Road Coyote break. I would just mention that pipe break was 20 feet deep, so it took a couple of days, and all our guys and another contractor to help with that, since there were safety issues with the 20-foot hole and other stuff. We also had a couple other leaks in the interim on Coyote on that. We had on Sylvan, a large one on Melinda, and then another on China Gulch. So probably more in the operations side of things. You'll see in my write-up, not a lot to update on top of. There's some updates in there. I do want to mention the backwash ponds design is out to bid. We did get our permit from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. That's put in as an addendum, and we're opening bids on November 17th. Remember, that's a Cal OES and state funded $5 million. We concrete line one pond in 2024, and then shut down and reactivate and do the next pond in 2025. The emergency electrical SCADA project is in some of its final stages. We are under the gun to get that thing done by the end of the year. It's been extremely challenging to do that. Pace and our staff are working diligently to get that done. We did get the box with the flow meter and right next to the building at the south booster station. We're trying to get all of the communication boxes done, cable pulled, all of the PLCs or the panels that help communicate with our wells, all finished and installed so that they're ready for the communication cable. We're just out there yesterday getting the internet connections all resolved, etc. The ARPA grant monies has been signed. We're waiting for a quote from Badger on the costs for that. I mentioned last month the potential for an EPA water infrastructure resiliency grant. I applied for one. I called it the Clear Creek CSD Wildfire Drought Resiliency Assessment Project. Requesting $490,000. We go out for an engineering firm to do an assessment of all of our system as it relates to fire flows and our fire hydrants, where they're placed, when they need to be updated and upgraded, and more importantly, storage. If we were shut down, do we have enough storage tanks? Because I don't think we do. We need more storage, and so I'm trying to use this grant to prove that. Just parenthetically, I would say this consumed an inordinate amount of time just trying to get access to it. So I'll just mention to the board, I am going to continue to pursue getting grant writer services and all those other kind of things, because we really do need that to be pursuing a lot of those different items. Some of the stuff on today's agenda consumed a lot of time as well. So that is that. I will just mention the week after Thanksgiving is the Association of California Water Agencies Conference and the Association of California Water Agencies / Joint Powers Insurance Agency Conference. So I'm going to be down there. I got to be down there Sunday somehow, and then it's down in Southern California in the desert. And so Monday and Tuesday, there's a board meeting for JPIA, so I'll go like I've reported to you in the past. We actually got a certificate, remember one time. So I will be at that location. So that's it for my operations report. Kayla and her group put together this quick snapshot If you had last month, you will notice that, the account numbers didn't change much for the 90, 60, and 30 days. The dollar amounts, did change and, slightly went down. We are still processing, these delinquency notices, fewer and fewer shut-offs, because more and more accounts are actually getting either caught up or shut off. We've also still getting great help from REWAP, on the people. The round one of the data conversion on the new billing software's, begun, and, Kayla and Shannon are now starting to look at old system, new system, kind of see how things are going before they do the real conversion. You'll see, Bill's report. We did, use in October 100 acre-feet of McConnell, and that was 100 acre-feet of our at zero charge. You might recall we purchased 500 acre-feet from McConnell. They then had some extra water, and they gave us 168 acre-feet at no charge. They are, doing a lot of the maintenance up there, and Bill's had multiple interactions with folks related to the backwash ponds project, and struggling with Train 6 with stuff going on there. Under distribution, Roberto does mention our flushing the system, and he has a nice little list here. I mean, the district hasn't flushed their system in a long time, and last time they did, they got like a couple of zones in and had a lot of leaks and gave up on it. I'm really committed to finishing the system flush regardless of the number of leaks. I will just mention, aside from China Gulch, none of the leaks that we had were in the areas that had been flushed. But it does, there's some benefits. It verifies, our hydrant operation. It also, removes sediment and minerals, and also improves our water quality. Back to those breaks, the one on Happy Valley Road, you had a depressurized system for 48 hours. That's why it was approved there, and in Olinda to have boil water notice. All the samples came back fine, so we were able to lift that within 48, 72 hours of instituting those. But it also points to why we're really looking forward to the new system and more complete communication to everybody.
Well, when, the break on Olinda, when they showed pictures of it, it looks like that pipe was really blown apart. Wasn't that stuff that we had just replaced, in the area that we just had replaced?
Wrong section.
Yeah, didn't you see, you could see some new parts with some old
Yeah.
parts.
Oh, I couldn't see.
It's a different strip, and even if you drive by Olinda, it's a couple streets over from the
Yeah.
last blowout.
Okay, I just was wondering, cause I had asked you and you said that the one on, in
China Gulch,
China Gulch was, it was
Also
the
an
old
older
pipe
section.
just up to the brand new pipe,
or,
fairly new pipe.
or yeah, in that neighborhood.
Okay,
Do we have any member questions or comments?
well, we will
Just,
when we get there.
once we get there,
It's 9 o'clock, let's get there.
let's get out of here, I know, we wanna get out of here. Standing committee report, the only reason why I'm gonna mention it is a reminder that we currently have opened the community member application period website. It's in our newsletter, it'll be in our newsletter again. So hopefully we'll have some community members.
Yep, I put something on Facebook, but I'll do it again, just separate with just that specifically.
And then there's one last quick comment on that, Diane. You've seen this before, this is our water loss analysis, so I just don't have it updated, so hopefully we'll have more on that.
Okay, board members?
Nothing?
Nope.
Yep.
No.
I do.
Why are we not surprised?
I wish you did.
I think one, we we should probably establish an MOU negotiating team that we talked about doing when we got rid of our personnel committee. So if we are going to do that, maybe just put that on the agenda for next time, if you deem that appropriate, to establish 2 board members. That's a thought. If you think differently, let me know. And then, I did attend the EAGSA meeting, on behalf of Scott. He was out of town. And in regards to, you know, we had to pay a fee or a permit or whatever you call it to the state to be part of this, what is it called? The water plan. So they did secure the grant, but now it has to be, the contract has to be negotiated or signed with the state. And that's what they said, gonna take about 4 to 6 months, before that contract is available. And then at that time, once Reading gets their hands on the actual money, then it'll be allocated out to the 6 members. I did verify, because Scott had wanted to know whether AHCID might put water in the canal to, help recharge the system, recharge the groundwater, and they are going to be using this opportunity during the winter time to do maintenance on the canal, so they aren't going to put any water in it. That's it for me.
The prospect of another full water year, probably good timing for them.
Yeah, we need to do that. Anything from the floor before we adjourn?
I have a quick question for Paul. I'm just curious what kind of pressure you run when you flush a line.
What kind of pressure?
Yeah.
Chad, what's our pressure at?
It's probably high up to like 150 in some spots.
No higher than you normally run.
No, it's
Right.
not garbage fed.
Yeah. No, yeah, another way to answer it, it's no higher than what it normally would be, so it kind of depends on where the hydrant is, but it's caps out at 150.
And his name is Greg.
Oh, great. Bloomquist.
Okay, anything else from anybody? And it is,
I did have one thing.
okay.
Did not come up this meeting, it's come up the last 2 meetings. We've kind of hobbled it together and don't have a real formal policy on it yet, but I'd like to make sure that we agendize, probably not December, but maybe January, trying to put together an actual plan of action for the second basis rate charge that we've been encountering. Right now, we have it on a case-by-case basis, you can appeal.
The second home,
Oh,
what we hear.
okay.
Right.
Second
Okay, so let me explain what I've been doing. So I had started in 1990 and trying to go back to find when that has been instituted that they did that. In some of the documents, I can't remember, Paul, so it was in the 2000s that I found, so I'm up to 2006, 7. There are other districts that have, and I made a copy of it, that have something else instituted. Some of them make people put in a whole separate meter.
Right.
Okay, so that's one of the things. It's not going to be something that we can just do overnight. What I've determined though, in the 90s, what they said when they were trying to make some adjustments, they said, we're just gonna keep it as is. So I think it actually occurred in the 80s. So I've gotta go back and read 80s minutes. Because we've got to establish why it was done and what the circumstances are underneath it. So I appreciate that, but I'm hoping that we can wait. And with the holidays coming, I don't know how much time I'm gonna get back in here to try to research.
That's fine, as long as it's on.
And I don't know if you talked about that at your meeting that you had with some of the other districts too, if that came up. But,
No, we got too many other things, but Director Johnson, good point. We have not forgotten.
yeah.
We're just trying to get as much information before we
Yep.
make some sort of decision out of context, right?
No,
Yeah,
Kayla,
that's good.
on the
Thank you.
January agenda, what I would like to see, I talked to Beverly about it, and I actually talked to Paul about it, is if we could come up with a plan to see if we have any money that we can start repairing lines ourselves, because if we go get a grant, that's a great thing, but a grant is, we're looking at 5 years down the road before it's all complete. So we've got to start doing something so these guys are not out all god awful hours and fixing these
a master plan or a capital improvement plan, so we've
Yes.
got, so yes, that's,
Are you talking about just starting at one end and putting in new lines?
Probably
Well-
working a street and working a street.
I think that we have to come up with a plan of what we want to do. I'm not thinking of anything except that we have to come up with a plan.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
put that on our priority.
Even if you start at one end and start going through, and the south end seems to be the worst.
Nothing is ever as simple as it sounds, because you've got all of these reports and engineering and state requirements and all of this other hoop-da-da, so it's gotta be part of a master plan or capital improvement plan. And then, I can foresee it taking 5 years, just from start to finish, just on one aspect of it, so yes, we have to get going on that, so. Okay, are we all ready now? The time is 9:05, we are adjourned.